Hello and welcome to episode 77 of the Movies in a Podshell podcast, the podcast where we take a theme and pick two films to fit that theme. This week's theme is superhero franchise intros, maybe. I'm joined by the man of tomorrow himself. You can call him John. How's it going, John?
Man of Tomorrow?
Yeah, it's like a Superman comic. I don't know if it's a Superman nickname, actually. We need to be really on it tonight because we've got some pretty hardcore Superman fans that listen to the pod, and so we've had... Yeah, it's pretty scary. So I just want to, beforehand, apologise, just in case we get anything wrong, you know? We wouldn't do it on purpose, but we're not Superman experts. I know a lot more about Batman, so let me tell you about him.
I'm a casual Superman fan. So what are the ones you sent over to me when I was travelling? So you sent
Brian Michael Bendis. So...
What's the one the new film's based on? So the new one's based on like when it's that really like Art Deco-y 50s style artwork. I don't mean
so the main ones would be
All-Star?
Superman Birthright and All-Star Superman.
Read that. Yeah, those are the two I've read. Right?
Is it All-Star Superman? Yeah, it's not a good start, is it?
Birthright sounds about right.
Yeah, it is All-Star Superman. So yeah, those are two like absolute considered like the
Bangers.
greatest. Yeah, they're considered like some of the greatest Superman comics ever. Like along with like Red Sun, and there's quite a lot really. Like I've not read hundreds of Superman comics, but
Neither have I.
I've read a decent amount. The one that we're covering today, which is the 1978 one by Richard Donner, or Dickie Donner as everyone keeps calling him every time I watch an interview, that is based on the Silver Age of Superman. So we can talk about some of that later. That's going to be our second film, and our first film is going to be Batman Begins. But firstly, John, I think so. It's funny because we recorded. So I'm going on holiday in about 18 hours, so I'm not going to get much sleep tonight.
No.
18 hours? No, like 12. I'm going on holiday in 12 hours, so we had to get 2 episodes out on the bounce. So we've already recorded the next episode that you're going to get. So you're going to get this one, then we've already recorded the one after that. We recorded that last night. That's going to be a halfway through the year, mid-year review of and our favourite 5 films of the year so far. And we were joined by Jane Crowther from the editor-in-chief of Hollywood Authentic. So and I can tell you now, it's a fantastic episode, isn't it, John?
Good. Yeah,
good episode. Yeah, it's going to be
like
good.
A time machine, though, isn't it? With us changing it around.
You've got to tune in to that next episode. Anyway, at the top of the show, I just want to talk about our t-shirts. Do you know what? I'm always emoting.
It's all right.
Like a stupid little Fortnite character. I never thought Fortnite would get mentioned on this pod. Anyway, so we've got some t-shirts. You can go to MoviesinaPODshell.sumupstore.com and buy a t-shirt for £18. Now, let me tell you, we don't make much money on these t-shirts at all. We really just want you to wear them and like love them because they're pretty cool t-shirts. It's the MyApps Zombie tee. The t-shirt quality, we've gone really high quality, just like the sound quality on this podcast and the video quality. You know, we strive for quality here and we don't scrimp. You're not going to be wearing Fruit of the Loom. You're going to be wearing pre-shrunk cotton t-shirt that's responsibly sourced and it just won't shrink in the wash. It washes up lovely. John's worn his many times, haven't you, John?
I have indeed, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
A lot of my family members have them, to be fair.
Yeah, and they bought them as well. So John actually has a special way of wearing his. He wears his just the t-shirt, no pants. He Winnie the Pooh, isn't it?
Oh.
So you walk around like Winnie the Pooh. No pants on, just the t-shirt.
Allegedly.
Yeah, and I've heard it's pretty hot. Anyway, so you can go buy a t-shirt on there. You can find us on YouTube.
It's a loose one tonight. I can already tell.
It's because I'm going on holiday tomorrow, and for literally 2 weeks, and I cannot wait.
Jamie and I have both got the whiskies out, and it's literally like 7:45, buzzing.
Do you know what? It's funny because I've done that thing where like I've got a little bit of bullet left.
Ooh.
I've got I've just had the last of my Jack Daniels because you got to slum it first.
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
I've got a little bit of Woodford Reserve left as well. So we've got we're just gonna go through all the bottles.
Selection. I've got Glenmarnock.
We Glenmarnock
Single malt Scotch.
It's a wee single malt Scotch.
That was a Father's Day present, which I'm very much enjoying. So happy days.
Have you got the Glenmarnock? Have you got the bottle there?
We're trying to get product placement deals. Let's find out.
Always. I'll let anyone sponsor us. And when I say that, I mean...
Ta-da!
Ooh.
Yeah.
Nice. Very nice. Sorry, we just also got to say about the YouTube channel. So you can find us on YouTube. You can type Movies in a Podshell, all one word. Tony, thank you very much. You'll find us that way, and you can click the bell icon to subscribe and gives you notifications. It'll be lovely, and you can like it as well, and it just helps us out loads. John, what are you going to say?
I was going to say, we're talking about superhero movies, and Jamie reminded me on the previous episode, which is actually the next episode, I didn't mention what I've been watching recently. So I want to talk to you about, I'm having a bit of a wave, which was I started reading again Ultimate X-Men, which we'll link into a question later, but we'll talk about it. But basically...
Is this the Joss Whedon?
No,
sorry, that's Astonishing.
That's Astonishing, which was afterwards.
It is.
So this is kind of like, I don't want to say what year it was, but it was Brian Michael Bendis kicked them off.
I want to say it's 2003, and I'm gonna Google that while you're doing that.
So, little story behind it. My cousin gave me his collection, which was the first Ultimate Spider-Man and the first 3 Ultimate X-Men, new editions,
right?
And that's kind of what got me into comic books. I'd had some before, but they were the first time I'd started a story I could actually follow through. And I would have been, I don't know, let's say 10. I can't remember.
Yeah,
but it
2001
really...
actually. So just
wow, okay. Yeah. And it really got me into that style of X-Men. Now I know nowadays some people aren't as keen on it, but I'm super into it. And then really randomly, I went to a shop in Sutton, it's called Reusers, but it's effectively a huge secondhand store.
Yeah.
And they had 3 volumes of this X-Men series, which I've not read in years, and I'm just loving it, really enjoying it. Some of it's so 2000s, it hurts, early 2000s, everyone's kind of got the shades and Matrix look, and do you know what I mean?
I love it,
there's a lot
with
of
a bit darker suits and stuff. Is it all the dark suits? Yeah,
which I quite like, and they're obviously inspired because I think it's around the time that the film was coming out anyway. But anyway, that got me to watching the original X-Men film, which that film, ironically, I bypassed because I went straight to X-Men 2, because I remember being X2 is the best one, which I still think it is.
It is the best one, yeah.
My God, the first X-Men hits the ground running. It starts with the
it's
scenes
excellent.
of Magneto in Auschwitz, which is what a way to start.
Yeah,
I mean, it's really well shot.
It starts quite early with Wolverine when he's there's loads of stuff happened with big logs and stuff.
No, you always get confused with X-Men Origins Wolverine,
which is the best.
Which will not make people happy. No, it's not.
I love that film.
I know you do.
Yeah.
But anyway, first X-Men film, really enjoyed it. The only thing that annoys me in the X-Men films, and this is being really nitpicky, is those first 3, they don't have a theme throughout. They change it each time. I love the X-Men 2 theme tune, which is what they went back to from
can't remember it.
Not after First Class, the one after that, Days of Future Past. They use that theme because it's the most memorable one. But yeah, I've watched 1, 2, and 3. The third one it's a shame because the first 2 I think are quite adult orientated, they've got action elements but they're really gritty, and then the third one it sounds weird to say, it feels a bit camper, a bit less, the stakes seem lower, despite the fact it's one of the most serious story elements and one of the biggest arcs. But obviously we know the director who was supposed to do that film went on to do, funnily enough, Superman Returns, because he was more interested in doing the Superman films. It meant more to him than doing X-Men, so he jumped ship. So I feel like X-Men 3 is kind of a release date first and then production second, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
so
of course.
It feels like they were always trying to make up for that film. But then it's interesting because I then watched Days of Future Past, which I remember at the cinema quite liking, and Jamie said to me, I wasn't that keen on that. And on rewatch, I tell you what I didn't like about it. It felt super clean. So the first 3 X-Men films are really gritty, they're filmed on film, but they've got the film grain kind of adds to whenever you see the Weapon X stuff and it's really grimly lit and it's grainy and it feels like a nasty, dirty environment. And then when you watch the new ones, covering the same ground, it looks super clean, super just, I don't know, it just looks a bit soulless at points. And then some of the CG weirdly in Days of Future Past was not as good as some of the CG used in X-Men 2 and 3, but then I suppose it's used more sparingly in those films, so that kind of thing. But anyway, it was a nice trip down memory lane. So I remember seeing X-Men 2 at the cinema, I remember seeing X-Men 3 at the cinema, and they were the prime age for me because it was around the time of Star Wars prequels, Lord of the Rings, and the first few Harry Potters, big blockbuster times and those experiences. And let's be honest, it's hard to feel like that at the cinema these days with things because when you're older, you get different things from it. But
yeah, of course.
But yeah, I've been enjoying them. They've been good fun. And Jamie managed to, I joked and said, you can basically pick up the entire box set of all the films for £5 from Kex because it just feels like everyone has a copy of X-Men for some reason. So dirt cheap.
And I managed to pick up is it the Adamantium collection or something, which had
Like 6 films, 7 films?
Yeah, it's the first 3. It's got First Class, and it's got the 2 Wolverines as well. And what's the other one? So there was Wolverine Origins, then there was Wolverine when he's in Japan, which is really famous comic book, but I didn't like the film. And then
did we see that together? Was that when we were still at uni?
We might have, yeah.
I quite like that one.
Yeah, I don't know what it was for me. It just wasn't hitting the spot. And then I really fell out of love with it after when it started talking about, was it X-Men? What's after that? X-Men Apocalypse.
That's the one people really
most
don't
recent
like.
one.
The thing
Dark
I found...
Phoenix as well.
Jesus. So can I give a bit of background on that? On Dark Phoenix, really interesting. Do you know why that was such a car crash? Because the original script had the Skrulls in it and all this stuff, but then there was the merger between Disney and Marvel, and they'd just done Captain Marvel, and the whole storyline is about the Skrull invasion.
Right.
So they were like, you can't use the Skrulls. Like, you're merging with us, you can't use them. So that film, they were saying, is basically 60% of the original script of what they shot had to be butchered out and had to rewrite, and it was just a mess. And then also, weirdly, the guy who wrote X-Men 3 originally, and then obviously it's the same story, it's the Dark Phoenix story, he directed this film, and he was like, I wanted them in the suits less because I want it to feel more real, human, and grounded. It's like, superhero films, now people are into the suits and into these, those escapist elements. Why are you shying away from them? When I think X-Men, everyone thinks of 90s X-Men. Like, if we, the
famous yellow Wolverine suit.
Yeah, the reason people go mad for Deadpool and Wolverine, I don't think people are that asked about the Deadpool bit. They just want to see Wolverine in the yellow. Honest to God, I just seen Hugh Jackman in that suit. There's a deleted scene in X-Men Wolverine in the one in Japan where he opens a suitcase at the end and it's got that suit in it.
Yeah.
Bit of a tangent, but I love X-Men. That's all I got to say. There's about 12 volumes is the entire collection of Ultimate X-Men, and I think I'm about halfway through, so I feel pretty committed into going for it now.
I want to hear this each week. I want to hear about you going through it.
Updates. But have you watched any other superhero garb prior to this pod?
No, but I have. So no, I haven't. But I have been reading. So I reread the Michael Brian Bendis. So I love, obviously, Brian Michael Bendis is the Don. And so when he came back, he moved over to DC, which was a massive thing. And he started writing Superman and kind of writing Superman in a more human way again. And so I reread that. The funny story, I lent John those comics, actually, and it was missing the last one or something.
I was fuming.
Yeah.
So he bought every issue up until the conclusion.
Running out of room.
And when he gave them to me, I obviously thought it was a complete thing, otherwise I wouldn't have bloody started it. But anyway, it's at the point I was reading them as before. Marvel's got the app, so you can basically read every issue.
Marvel Unlimited, yeah.
Yeah, but DC at that point, I don't know if they do now,
they've just got it now, so
Fine.
it's called
they
DC
didn't have it then,
Infinite.
So I was getting so angry that I couldn't even finish this bloody story, and I was trying to find them online to buy it, and they were super expensive to buy the individual issues.
I own both now, so I've got. So I paid for Marvel Unlimited for a year, and I also have got DC Infinity, which, do you know what? You can tell DC were later on the train, because the Marvel interface is actually, I prefer DC overall. I'm much more. Me and John are both. Do you actually? I feel like you did for a while.
I don't know. When I read a lot more Batman, but that's because when Jamie and I lived together, he had quite a, I'd say quite a large, probably not compared to some, but he had a decent back catalogue of Batman. So a lot of what I read then was Batman. And when I was growing up, I probably read more Batman than anything else. But I also always loved Spider-Man. Spider-Man was kind of, I think it is for a lot of people, the entry level kind of one to get into. But one of my earliest memories of living at this is the second house I lived in, but I was sat in the garden, I was reading.
Yeah.
It was a reprint of a 1950s Batman, when it's the proper vibrant colours. I can remember the Riddler's suit and all this. It sounds really weird. It was a summer's day.
No, not at all. No, it's just a passion.
That's my memory of DC.
There'll be listeners today that that do have a passion and there's one listener in particular that I always see them posting issues that they bought and stuff. And I was at one point I was going to the comic book store every single Wednesday, and I had a subscription to these books that I was doing, but it's a commitment. You commit in
it's a lot of money,
probably a good 20-30 quid, and it's and actually now I prefer to just, because sometimes the issues only come out bi-weekly or they come out monthly, I actually prefer just buying the whole volume and just so
That's
you can
what
just
I do.
because you forget
Blitz it.
otherwise. And
Yeah.
so what I have been reading. So I've been reading Brian Michael Bendis' run of Superman. So he did one called Man of Steel, which is great.
I've got that
and
one.
then
Is that the
yeah,
one-
so.
Is that the one when does he have a son in that one, or is that another one?
Yes, yeah, he has
Yes,
a son,
okay, yeah,
and
yeah,
his
cool.
and spoilers for Man of Steel.
Oh, sorry.
Like, I mean, I'd be surprised if anyone is listening that would want to go and read it and was spoiled it. Spoilers for
Yeah.
Man of Steel by Brian Michael Bendis. So, like, yeah, so this all it's basically Lois leaves Earth with Superman's dad.
That's it.
With Superman's dad and
Yes.
and his son, because and that goes into then the Super Sons where you've got Damian Wayne and. You've got Superman's son, which I can't remember his name actually, and they go away and like start like they've got it's a really fun comic actually.
They're more like week by week adventures, and they're a bit
Yeah.
more of a comedy twinge to it. But like,
I'd really recommend that though because it's
I
like,
quite when Jamie. So you gave me a load of those as well. By the way,
Yeah, I did, yeah.
When I started those, I was like, "Oh, this isn't for me." And about 2-3 issues in, I got really into it. 'Cause
It's really fun.
It's quite fun. Yeah, it's like
But
low
after
stakes
that, like
stuff.
yeah, after that, so you kind of like that. Then Brian Michael Bendis did like this other run where it basically follows Superman on the aftermath of like Lois has left him, and he's just like on his own, like working for the Daily Planet, and yeah, so he's dealing with all that, and so the stories about Clark Kent, they're the stories that I find most interesting in. We can talk about Superman a bit later on, and then Batman. I'm reading. So Tom King did a really long run of Batman, where again focusing on the human side of Batman. This was for Batman Rebirth, he went through. It's when the relationship starts with Catwoman, and so you've got all of those relationships for ages, and then James Tynion IV took over. And he was doing a fantastic run with Batman at the moment. So I was reading both of them just to get re-immersed. Obviously, I've read Killing Joke Year One, which
Night of the Owls and all that whole collection we
Court
read
of the
back
Owls
in the
by
day.
Scott Snyder.
Sorry, Court of the Owls. Love that.
I'm in my element now, John. Do you
No,
know what?
Do you know what though? Like I'm looking over to my left because that is where my graphic novels are. And
I've got loads in a
so
box
many good
just
Batman
here.
ones. And obviously
Yeah.
we've done the Frank Miller ones, which by the way, Dark Knight
Rises.
Dark Knight Returns the first
Both of
one.
them, yeah. Dark Knight Returns, yeah. Sorry.
It starts really good, and then the other ones I'm not as keen on after that.
Yeah,
To be
with
completely
George
honest,
Miller,
but
that is.
They're always super interesting to read.
Do you know what's
but
funny?
Go on.
Like this is like this is the era where that era of Batman with Scott Snyder and stuff. I can tell you like loads about
Week for
because
week.
that was when I was like
Super
when I was
into it.
properly like all over it with even because at the same time there was a Jeff Johns run of Green Lantern going as well, like, and that was when I was probably reading more graphic novels than I've ever read in my life, and I'm kind of picking it back up as well. Like
in second year uni, you used to go and have like the little delivery bags. You had so many.
Yeah,
you used to love. Is it Green Arrow?
Green Arrow, yeah, I've got loads of.
Or
I've
is
got
it
loads
just
of
Arrow?
So
Sorry,
no, it's
whatever.
Green Arrow because
Yeah.
I was watching TV show of Arrow at the time
mate,
as well.
I love that back in the day. Arrow.
It's not that good though. Like,
It's
'cause
so
like,
good. It's
you
the
know,
best. It's the best of the CW shows, I think.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm gonna throw it out
You
there.
know when they started doing crossovers with the Flash and
Yeah,
Supergirl. So like I was
yeah.
quite obsessed with Supergirl at that time as well.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with Melissa Benoist, but maybe a little bit to do with her. But it was the 24 episode seasons. That's when, when I was at uni. It's easy to digest because you are going to uni, and I was working as well. But like you do have a bit more free
We had
time.
time, mate. We had time.
Oh.
Do you remember time?
Take me
Do
back.
you remember
What is
time?
time? On the contrary, I've been running around like a blue ass fly all day, taking the cat to the cattery, doing all this kind of stuff. So
Loving
yeah.
life.
But
look, guys, we could chat comic books a lot.
yeah.
but
Do you just ever want to hear a comic book episode? Because we could do that for you. We could do our top 5 favorite graphic novels of all time. That's got nothing to do with films. That we could do that.
Oh, last question on graphic novels. I'm just stopping myself, and then we will start talking about Batman Begins. Did you read The White Knight, the one I lent you, which is about when the Joker comes back?
No, but
And he's a good guy.
It's over there.
He thinks he's a good guy. Oh,
You've given me.
check that
like,
out.
I could go and grab like a few you've given me at the moment. So
Take it
I
out
will,
on Hollybobs.
yeah,
Have a read.
the White Knight.
I think it's called The White Knight.
There's a lot of White Knight in comments nowadays. Anyway, we've got 2 films to cover, you know, and
Let's do it.
yeah, we've got so much to talk about, haven't we? We're going to talk about. Go on, John, you do it.
Christopher Nolan's Batman Begins.
The Batman.
Gotham must be destroyed. Gotham isn't beyond saving. This over!
2005.
Yeah.
So I was gonna get you to introduce it like Christian Bale's
I can't
Batman
do
voice.
the Christian
Can you
Bale
do the
Batman.
Christian Bale voice?
No, I genuinely can't even reach the trash my throat enough to get there.
Okay.
It'd be like that time when I actually had no voice for weeks. Remember that? That was fun.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we'll talk about Christian Bale's voice in a bit. Shall we give a quick synopsis of what it is? Would you like me to do it, or
please?
So this is directed by Christopher Nolan, who actually isn't the biggest comic book fan in the world, or didn't actually have much of a background on comics in general. However, this is where someone is smart, right? This is where a director is smart, and they say, I am not an expert on this, but these are the ideas I've got, and I'd love to do Batman. So I'm going to go to someone who actually is an expert.
A healthy disregard. The best Star Trek film is Star Trek 2. Nicholas Meyer did not particularly like Star Trek. He had a healthy disregard of the material. He watched it from scratch.
Love that.
He found stuff he liked. He found stuff he was like, I'll take it or leave it, right?
Yeah.
And then you end up with this new vision, new take on something which was already popular, that elevates it to a more accessible audience, and yada yada. And that's exactly what Christopher Nolan's done in this situation.
Yeah, so this is essentially completely plucked from Batman Year One. So yes. Batman Year One was one of one of the first Batman graphic novels I read, and essentially we see Batman. We see the classic tale of his parents being shot. There's been a lot of reinterpretations of this over the years. I remember
seen it on film about 6 times.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, so I'd just finished my GCSEs at the time, and I love this because there was talk later of them doing Year 100 with Bale coming back as old Batman,
really?
Which is very exciting. And I guess this follows a tortured Batman. We probably would say he might be in his late 20s at this point, kind of a bit older than Robert Pattinson is in The Batman. And so in this particular version, we see Bruce Wayne is tortured by fear by the bats, and so he kind of is losing the plot a little bit, and he just disappears, and he's going on these pilgrimages. He's in a, I want to say it's a Chinese jail at some point. He's fighting. I really do think that Garth Evans was inspired by this a little bit when he did the Raid 2, because there's a very similar scene in a prison with a massive fight. So we see that
outside in the mud.
Yeah, and we see Liam Neeson turn up, and we see him turn up, and I can't remember his character's name at the time. Obviously, we're doing full spoilers today, so get over
absolutely.
it. And it turns out, obviously, Liam Neeson is Ra's al Ghul, so he takes him to the League of Shadows, I want to say they're called. Is it League of Shadows,
the League of Shadows.
Yeah, the League of Shadows. And he basically trains Bruce Wayne into becoming a shadow, and he wants to. It turns out it's a little bit more than that. They're doing all sorts of martial arts. I counted 4 different types of martial arts in the prison to begin with. So Bruce Wayne was already trained. He was doing judo, kickboxing, karate.
They embrace the idea of using fear against people, using the things that they fear against them, and like embracing the darkness. So Bruce's obviously biggest fear is bats, because after his parents' funeral, he ran. Was it after his parents' funeral, that scene? I'm pretty sure it is. He runs with Rachel as a child, and he falls down a well. And as he falls down the well, there's a load of bats scurrying around him, which is quite traumatic. And bats are quite creepy, let's be honest. So that is his fear, and he decides to use that fear against his enemies. But the other major point of why he leaves for those travels, don't forget, is because he goes to the court to see his parents' killer. And he's let go, and he's like, I've got my own justice, which is I've got a pistol. I'm gonna whack him, and he's done. Yeah. But of course, he doesn't do it because someone else does it beforehand, because they've outed against Falcone, who's like the big crime lord who runs everything in Gotham. And,
brilliant, by the way.
Yeah, very, very good. And then because of this, Rachel finds out he was going to do it, and she gives him the talk, and she says, you think by killing this one person it's going to solve the problem? The city's worse than it's ever been. And she takes him down to the, what do they call it? It's not the underground.
Paradise City. Takes him down to the Paradise City.
No, what do they call it down in the...
Oh, I don't really know.
Street level thing. What's it called?
It's basically just like he takes him down into like the slums and the back alleys,
something like that. And she's like, it's worse than ever since your parents died. Like the philanthropy or whatever's died in Gotham, it's waning.
But
But yeah, so he then goes on his, as you say, to find himself, jokes aside, but you find now he's been committing crimes, but he's been committing crimes against himself, so he gets accused of stealing, but when he's stolen, it's all Wayne Enterprises content. So, and he's like, he says to Liam Neeson, like, the first time I stole, I understood why, because I was starving, and it made me, sympathise with people and understand. So yeah, it's basically after he's been trained up by the ninjas on the mountain, for lack of a better description.
Yeah, it's true though.
They have like a flower that he was told he had to bring to like be able to participate, and what that does is make you see your fears, and he's able to combat it. And essentially, we learn the big moral code of Batman, which is he will not kill. And these people who he's with say, in order to be part of our syndicate, the League of Shadows, you must kill this man because he's committed crimes. And he's like, that's my line. My line is I won't kill.
Yeah.
And I believe his line is that because his parents were killed, so he doesn't feel the need
Bats
to
don't kill. That's what we say, mate.
Well, I mean, Ben Affleck's Batman kills, and I'm here for it. Just to say, in the first 1920s Batman's, like, he shot people like week on week, and no one died.
I'm not okay with that though, because
It's
it does kind of ruin the moral compass of the character.
It does. But anyway, there we are. And essentially, he rebels, I suppose, is the way to describe it. And as he's doing that, and as he leaves, he has to escape. So there's this massive fire, this amazing base, which looks like something out of a James Bond film, or like wooden architecture, like ends up in flames. But he saves his mentor, and his mentor was Liam Neeson, who taught him. And he saves him, and he returns to Gotham. And as he comes back to Gotham, he has the idea of becoming the Batman. And the big baddie of this film is Scarecrow. There is a guy going around. Well, it's kind of linked, isn't it? Falcone is smuggling drugs in, but the League of Shadows are making him smuggle in what he doesn't know, which is going to be this gas which makes people see their greatest fears and makes people act like absolutely nuts.
If you got gassed with that, John,
what would I see?
What would you see?
Snakes, probably. I hate snakes. Really don't.
You
like
hate snakes?
Yeah.
I'm a snake. I'm a slithery little snake.
No, but I mean, like, like in Indiana Jones when he sees the snakes and they're all like around and it's like eerie and just like, I feel that, and I would struggle with that. What about you? I'm intrigued.
Probably. I guess the things that I'm scared of the most would be just heights. Really, I don't know. Heights. Spiders don't really scare me. Scared. What am I scared of? I'm not going to say I'm not scared of anything, because obviously I'm scared of stuff, but it's probably heights are the thing that scares me the most, maybe. Or like maybe like loads of dentists just being around me, like get my mouth open and that, and I'd be like, get off.
Have a look.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. The dentists don't even. I don't know. I don't know what scares me the most, really. I guess the same as everyone else. Like people they love dying around them. That'd be pretty. That'd be pretty nasty. There we go. There we go.
But yeah, what's great about Batman Begins is we see step by step how he becomes Batman, but like the logistics of like how do you make the suit? So
I love it.
How
Lucius
like,
Fox.
We have to. Well, not just that, but like he's with Michael Caine. Michael Caine plays Alfred, who's Batman's Christian Bale's Bruce Wayne's surrogate father figure. And he's like, not sure about this crusade you're starting on, but I'd rather support you and be with you on it than not. And they start making, how do we find to make a Batman mask? And they order, and they say we have to order thousands of units so people don't start getting suspicious of what we're doing.
Yeah.
And I love all that thought process behind it.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah, but yes, Jamie's also mentioned Bruce, Bruce Wayne's a multimillionaire or billionaire, and in his offices they have army contracts, so there's all this equipment which he uses, and he says he's going spelunking, which is like cave diving, but it's quite obvious he's not, because he's using this massive tank thing. And he's like, does it come in black? And obviously then gets
there's quite a lot of humour sprinkled throughout it, isn't it?
So it's basically a James Bond film. This for me it's got a massive kind of like,
I like that observation.
Yeah, Nolan loves Bond, and like it absolutely shines through in this, in terms of like, seeing, you've got Lucius Fox kind of plays the Q character, you've got the suave guy gearing up, and yeah, it's great. And
there was a lot. Oh, go on. I was going to say.
No, you go.
There's a lot of inspiration that was taken from Superman, actually, from 1978, from Christopher Nolan. So Christopher Nolan says like the one thing that people associate with the 1978 Superman is the crazy cast. So it's got this cast of, which we'll talk about later. And obviously in this we've got Christian Bale, Cillian Murphy, Katie Holmes, Michael Caine, Liam Neeson, Gary Oldman, Morgan Freeman, Tom Wilkinson. It's absurd.
Star-studded, yeah,
absolutely star-studded. And so there's a lot of things that I love about this. And so what do you think about Christian Bale as Batman and Bruce Wayne?
So I think he's the best one at doing both, or I used to think that. I'm not sure. I find it so hard because
he would be if Ben Affleck didn't exist.
So here we go. So I think when you read the graphic novels, there's so many interpretations of Batman. It's really hard to be like, oh, he's the best one, because it's like, of which Batman are you referencing?
Yeah, of course.
Right? So I kind of find like, if I'm reading 40s, 50s Batman, then Adam West is the closest approximation of that.
Of
and
course.
Then when it all gets redone in the 80s and the Frank Miller and the moodiness, then maybe Keaton isn't quite hitting that mark. I never quite got into Keaton as... I didn't mind him in the suit or just out of the suit. Never really sold on that. I thought Val Kilmer did more for that for me. Clooney was a good Bruce Wayne, but a terrible Batman, as in the suit. And then I kind of felt like Christian Bale... I felt like he was a good all-rounder, but I think the voice, as the films went on... In the first film, it's quite subdued, but in 2 and 3, it really elevates, and that's when it became like all those memes about it, and it's really hard to separate from that now, which is a shame. I think with the Ben Affleck one, they did a good job with the vocoder, kind of to get away with that.
Do bleed. So good, man. Like, it's so good.
But yeah, so... it's so tough. But then I always forget Robert Pattinson's. I mean... Just to say, by the way, is that film being cancelled? Because it's been
Batman
so
2?
long. It's been
no,
so long.
It's coming.
Really?
Yeah,
Do you think it is?
No, it's coming 2026, apparently.
Okay.
In fact, yesterday it had the first script update in 9 months.
Oh.
Yeah,
I will say this. I very much enjoyed Robert Pattinson as Batman, and he was emo Batman, which is fair because he's like Batman Year 2, so it's very, very early days.
Yeah.
And to be fair, in Batman Begins, he kind of hits the ground running. Was in the Robert Pattinson one, it kind of shows he's not that great at it. He just likes getting beaten up, and then he kind of realizes he has to not just want to get beaten up.
Yeah, I think for me,
sorry, got derailed there.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Like, I love Christian Bale in general. Like, I think he's a great actor. So was this the film? Was it one of the Dark Knight films where he kicked off on? No, it wasn't. It was Terminator Salvation,
which he was doing at the same time, and he used the same voice.
Right. Yeah.
Shout out. I like Terminator Salvation. I was forever gutted it never got a sequel.
Yeah. You've always liked it. You've always liked it.
Terminator Salvation was what I wanted, but anyway.
Well, let me talk about Christian Bale. So
do it.
So I love him just as an actor anyway. He'd just come off of The Machinist for this. And so Christopher Nolan was looking for Batman, and he was like, right, I think it needs to be Christian Bale. And he said to Christian Bale, right, the thing is, I need to convince Warner Brothers that you are Batman. And at the moment, he said he had to say it really gently, that you're quite skinny. And so Christian Bale obviously
is about a character basically who's like really unwell though, and who is like super thin. Like, it's so creepy. He does like bird-like shapes and stuff.
Yeah, so I think really for The Machinist, he was eating an apple and a tin of tuna a day, and that was it.
Jeez.
Yeah, I don't know why I know that. Don't Google it, because it could be complete bullshit, but it's not. Do you know what? If I say it with enough conviction on a podcast, everyone believes me. That's what it is, yeah. But anyway, so Christian Bale was like, he was really skinny at the time. And so what he did was, basically Nolan said to him, I need you to just get as big as you can. Yeah, I need you to get as big as you can. So obviously, with most actors, that's just like, he really took it to the next level, Christian Bale. And he said he was just eating everything he could, as much as he could, and lifting really heavy weights. So by the time it came to shoot Batman, he was about 220 pounds, which is huge. And is apparently the people that he was working with, so the writers, some of the writers and stuff, were like, Are you playing Batman? Are you playing Fat Man? Like,
yeah, harsh.
So yeah, it is harsh.
To be fair, like he's definitely bulkier in Batman Begins than he is in 2 and 3.
Huge.
I mean, three narratively he's supposed to be because he's been out of action for so long, but in 2,
he's got that bear physique. Like if you type in bear physique, right? Like that's how he looks. He looks like he's not got. When he gets up out of bed, one of his first nights when he's been beaten to hell, and he's got bruising all over him, he looks quite ripped, but his arms are like quite they're like boulders, so which is kind of like bear physique. Like he's probably carrying about 15 to 18% body fat. And so what Nolan said, but before that, Nolan was like, right, I'm so sorry, like, but I didn't expect you to get this big. Can you please try and like slim down a bit? Like, so he then had to tone down, or tone up, sorry, and slim down a little bit, because he put on too much weight, which is hilarious because he wouldn't fit in the suit. And usually when actors are asked to lose weight, they just don't really do a good job of it. So, but Christian Bale is obviously very committed, and he's put on weight loads of times in films. Yeah,
he's done quite a lot of body transformations.
Yeah. I think that in terms of how tough he is, like he's the most believable Batman in terms of his physicality. I think Robert Pattinson is still very skinny in a good way though, like ripped, and he's not
nimble
built
Batman.
It takes many years to. If you look at The Rock in WWE when he first started, he had more of that Christian Bale physique, but years go by, and you've got to train your body for many years to get all of those like specific little muscles. Like I'll take my shirt off and show you like exactly what it looks like, but this is PG. But yeah, so that's where we're at. But I do think he's great in both. I think he's a good all rounder. And the voice is a bit ridiculous, but
it disguises it. It's
fine.
As I said,
like,
in the first one, it's like it's well done, but by the second one, it's elevated more and it's difficult.
I love how you've got a little bit of like Victor Zsasz in there as well, which is like a little like snippet of like a side character from Batman. Like I love that we see that, and we see like the different sides to Bruce when he's trying to kind of completely deflect off the fact that he could be Batman. He's acting like a billionaire playboy kind of thing. And
then Rachel, his childhood sweetheart's upset with him because she says, Bruce, it's not who you are underneath, it's what you do that defines you.
Yeah.
I bloody love
classic
that, by the way.
Quote.
That's one of those quotes I heard as a teenager. I was like, oh, that's got me thinking. That's deep.
Mate, I tell you what, that's a lot. That's a quote that like a lot of people that think they like film talk about all the time. They've got it in their like Twitter handle or whatever.
Mate,
like, I love films. I love films.
Good. Can we also talk about the fact Gary Oldman plays Commissioner Gordon, who's a good cop in a very crappy situation because Gotham's so corrupt. Like everyone's done. Like the police are like completely corrupt, and he knows Bruce Wayne because he was a first responder when his parents died, essentially, or he was at the police station. So when Batman starts his war on terror or war on crime, whatever it is, he essentially trusts Gordon and he sets up the bat light for him and all that stuff, the bat symbol, and that's how it all kicks up.
He's exactly like Gordon is in Year One. Like it's very, very similar. It's perfect, like perfectly played. Yeah,
down to the fact he's stuck in a crappy apartment with trying to support his family in like the most hostile place. I did want to really talk about the scene between Bruce and Falcone. So when Rachel drops Bruce off with Falcone, he goes in. It's very much a Godfather situation. It's a very much he's going to meet the mob, and that's I think. Imagine, I've said it before on the pod, like imagine Scorsese doing a Batman film but focusing on the mob. It'd just be quite interesting, wouldn't it? Anyway, the conversation between Bruce and Falcone is excellent, and Tom Wilkinson is... What's the line when he says, he's like, you might such, but you never understand. What does he say to him first?
Well, he says you don't know hardship and you don't know desperation. Like you don't know hardship or desperation. And then as Falcone, he's quite reasonable at first. He's like, look, you got balls, kid, like, and all this. But as it goes on, he then starts talking about, he says like, oh yeah, and by the way, like your dad, I heard he begged, and then he got like a dog, and it's like you can tell like just quite how nasty he is, and it's just a really good scene because you do see Bruce is very much playing the character. Sorry, Christian Bale's very much. He plays a character in the film Shaft from around the 2000s with Samuel L. Jackson, who basically he is a racially motivated attack, and Shaft is there to fix it. But he's there to like hunt down the racist that is Christian Bale, and he's very much that same like preppy character.
Yeah.
And Bruce is that, like, he's Silver Spoon character. Like, he's just like broody, moody. He's a bitch, like he's a little bitch, like, but he's obviously got something there as well, like billions of dollars. Like, I reckon, right, if someone give me $1 billion, I could do anything. Trust me.
So I think the appeal of Batman is everyone thinks if they had enough money, they could be Batman. I genuinely believe that's what a large part of the appeal is. Yeah,
I think it's more that he's a man, isn't it? He's just a man.
No, he's just a man, but that's my point. It's like if I had if I was a multi-billionaire, like say if I was Elon Musk, and Elon Musk could make a Batman outfit if he wanted to.
Yeah, he probably got one. He's probably got one, and he probably wears it regularly.
But he could have it like with tasers and stuff in his arm, and he could literally go beat people up in the street if he really wanted to.
Yeah, and he can have the Cybertruck. Could be his.
Do you know what I mean? Like it's so, and this is why people are like, if I had enough money, like Batman's an achievable target. It's like probably, like I don't know.
No, but I think if if I had $1 billion, I reckon I think someone could be like, "Can you do this?" And I'd be like, "I'll learn." Like it's not really. Yeah, like I mean, would I be able to fly a spaceship, like a rocket into space?
After a while, probably.
Probably, like yeah. If I had experts around me,
enough flight simulator.
Yeah, if I had enough like experts around me at all times, spoon feeding me the velocity and all this shit, like I reckon I'd be able to do most things. Honestly, I do, and I'm not. I mean, physically, I wouldn't be able to. I wouldn't be able to run 100 meters faster than whoever the current fast person is. Like, but because I just can't. That's physical.
I'm not sure how we got here, but anyway, whatever. Yeah. It's why I think Batman Begins for me is special because it probably is the more grounded one of the three. It's the one that feels the most.
It's my favourite, and I do think it's the best of the three.
And we need
which
to
is
talk
funny.
About Bruce's other reason for we should have said why he goes against League of Shadows is not because he's about to decapitate that bloke, but because essentially they're targeting Gotham. Like Gotham's had so many chances, they tried flooding it with money to like make it better and it didn't work, so they're now saying they need to burn it to the ground. So that's why he goes as Batman to start cleaning the streets up to prove to them you don't need to burn it to the ground, like I'm saving the streets. And basically we follow his different evenings out, don't we? So he has the first one, which is kind of he fights in the container shipyard where he knows there's going to be a big drug deal. But like people complain about this because they're like, "Oh, you can't really see the fights." And it's like it's trying to be disorientating. And to be fair to Christopher Nolan, the feedback was you can't see enough of the fights. Then in 2 and 3, you can really see the action, can't you? So
do you know what's really funny? Right, that's in my notes. It's in my notes. Is that like I wish that the fight scenes were more coherent because it's very much Bourne Identity.
I think again that's fashion of that time, but I also think in
doesn't mean
Batman,
it's right.
No, but I think you have to remember, I feel like Batman's whole thing in this is disorientation, like using tricks, using smoke, using like the bats coming through, and then I feel like it just puts you in that place. But then, again, by the time we get to the second Batman film, the opening chase sequence in The Dark Knight, when he's fighting in the car park, it's super clear how he fights, and it's like really well presented. So that's definitely like a case of taking on the feedback and rolling with it. So that's good.
Yeah.
But what I also like about this film is there is CG in this film, but it's pretty minimal. There's lots of big miniatures being used. The examples are the base we talked about at the start in China, where he gets trained by the League of Shadows. The other is some rooftops, because the Batmobile ends up jumping off a bridge and going on a roof, and it's this huge remote control.
Yeah.
So you really get the gravity and scale of it, and like, it's a really nice mix. I mean, it's not an original thing to say Christopher Nolan's really good at integrating practical and CG, let's be honest, but he is, and it's very good. The thing I don't like about this film, or don't like about this series, because there are a few things which don't link through, Gotham in this film has a real vibe to it. So you've got, is it the Narrows they call it? That's it. And the Narrows is like very like dirty, grimy, like gassy, and like it looks like grim. And then you've got the more opulent kind of like big cityscape buildings.
Opulent.
And then you've got the
Love
like
that.
the track, the monorail system. You know, you've got all of that going on.
Yeah.
And then by the time we get to 2 and 3, it is just Chicago. Now I know they filmed it in Chicago, but it felt like they really layered the environment up in the first film, and then by the time we get to 2 and 3, it just kind of just feels like less so. I don't know how you feel about that, because I know people always loved in the Tim Burton ones, like Batman had that super distinctive Art Deco style. It looks very much almost like some Blade Runner outside there, you know. And then by the time we get to, you know, Christopher Nolan's, he gives it a style for that first one, and then it really tails off. Like it feels like the production design on that just went. It just, I suppose, was it In Search of Reality? I don't know. Trying to like downplay it more. I'm not sure. Just a thought.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. Like, I actually don't particularly like the look of Gotham in this film.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So like, I think it just looks very small. It looks like a computer game a little bit. Like all this, like, I don't know would you say they call it, the Narrows, with like all the blocks and maybe that's really close to the comics, but I don't remember the comics I don't remember them looking like that.
I feel like the Batman Year. I felt like it looked like Batman Year One, which is obviously the inspiration anyway.
Yeah.
But the Narrows, I think, is a fair representation of how Gotham's presented. But look, you've got a series with not quite 100 years, but you know, best part of's worth of content and to go at. So there's many interpretations of Gotham. Some are it's just a normal city. Some are it's a super ridiculous Art Deco vibe, like nightmare-y Tim Burton world. You know, it is. There's all sorts of things. That's okay.
By the way, there's the one thing
there's
that
no right or wrong.
I noticed loads about this, and it did remind me of like the last time I saw it, because I remember thinking about it the last time I saw it, was that there's loads of horror elements. Like this could be a horror film in a lot of places.
It was a 12A, but like it's bloody close to the line. I mean, as is the following film.
Could be in the same universe as The Crow. Like,
so when when the gas kicks in, so Scarecrow is played by Cillian Murphy, and he's called Crane, but essentially he gets all of Falcone's people out of jail by giving them the insanity plea, and the way he does it to convince people is he gives them this drug supplied by the League of Shadows, which makes people go insane. But basically Batman uses it against Scarecrow. So we see Scarecrow with his mask on, and when he uses the gas, it makes people see him in this really like crazy way, how he's depicted in the comics, and it's super scary. But then when it's used, Batman used it against the Scarecrow.
Oh my god!
And you see the Batman, and it's like what Bruce Wayne thinks he looks like in the bat suit, I suppose, and it's just like Batman going.
This
like
is
his mouth
so
like oozing like black goo, and like
the full face
his
is
head
black.
His head is the bat, right? He is the bat, and it's super scary. And again, it's 12As were weird at this point of like what you could and couldn't do. It's
that is my I think that Batman in all black, like I think even his symbol in the middle is black. I don't know if we see that far down. Everything's black, and his black eyes as well. That could be one of my favorite scenes from any Batman film ever. Like, and even when we obviously, finally we do get like the whole point of what Cillian Murphy's trying to do is they've robbed a microwave combustor, which essentially makes water into gas, and so they're putting all of this hallucinogen into the water supply to then they're putting the hallucinogen into the water supply to then make it into a gas, and everything explodes. So we've got gas all around the city, and everyone's just scared out of their minds.
And it's released into the Narrows, which is where the chaos comes. But what they do is it's separated by a bridge. So this bridge is coming up, and like Christian Bale's in the Batmobile, and it skies over, and he goes to save the day. And he's got Commissioner Gordon with him as well, who blows up a bridge to make sure people can't get in and out. But the problem is the prisoners are released into the Narrows. So
they love releasing prisoners in Batman.
Yeah, they do.
It's the thing they love to do.
The people are out of Arkham, and it's all kicking off. And like you see, the child sees Scarecrow on a horse because it's on a police horse.
That's brilliant.
And
it's brilliant.
The image of that is so.
The
cool.
horse got red eyes, and then Batman's like gliding along, and he's got the red eyes as well. I just think that Nolan's like he did a really good job of blending a really realistic superhero film.
With supernatural elements, but it's from the drug, so you get away with it.
It's really clever. And I would kind of almost argue that it's not a superhero film, and it is very much more of a crime film. Like this trilogy
the second one. The second one's Heat. The second one is Heat. You know, like it's good, but it's that's what he was going for. And then the thing is, I saw a really good thing on Google. Let's see if I can load it now. But if not, I will give my abbreviation of it. But it said, okay, so on Batman Begins on Google, it says, is Batman Begins as good as The Dark Knight? And I thought this summary is really fair. It's from movieweb.com. Batman Begins may not be the better movie as a whole from a cinematic standpoint, but it may be the better Batman movie. And I think that is a perfect summary, because Batman's not in The Dark Knight all that much. It's Heath Ledger's movie. It's the Joker's movie, and my God, so it should be, because it's fantastic. But this is Batman's film, and I feel like it's the closest to the comics, I want to say, in my mind, in terms of like the depiction. It's basically following year one pretty much.
Like it's very good. Like almost, I wouldn't say as close as Watchmen, but it's good. It's good.
Watchmen. But it's following all those beats, and yeah, I just not much else to add in it, but I thought it's a very fair point that The Dark Knight is cinematically a better film. It's constructed in a better way. It's tight, the scripts and everything. But Batman Begins is the one that, if you're reading the graphic novel and you're thinking of a Batman film, it's that one. Do you know what I mean? Like, that for me is it. Like,
yeah, like
it's tough though.
It is tough. Like, and I think as a Batman film, spoiled. Batman Begins is better. Film Forager writes in and she says, not a question. But just need to express my love for Batman Begins. It's my favorite CBM. And
Christian Bale movie, I'm guessing. Yeah.
Comic book movie.
Oh. I thought it was just Christian Bale movie, Chandra. Sorry.
Well, mate, you've like, that's hilarious. I mean, technically, yes, it is, but yeah, CBM is the well-known abbreviation for comic book movie. So yeah,
I've never heard that in my life. But
have you not?
No.
I was my surprise. I mean, I would say that I don't think it's my favorite comic book movie, but I would say that it's as I've said, I think it's the best Batman film.
I don't know what my favorite comic book movie even is.
I wouldn't even like to say what my favorite comic book movie is. Watchmen is definitely up there. Batman Returns, I don't think it's the best, but it's one of my favorites. It's so rewatchable.
I get it.
For me. I would have to really sit and think about that, but yeah, no, I agree. Kate reviews films, writes in and also says Batman Begins is the best of the Nolan trilogy. Prove me wrong. I don't need to, Kate. I don't want to. I don't want to sit here and prove you wrong, because I think I'd kind of agree. Like
the third one I felt was rushed, or I think it was.
Right, let me tell you about that. I think Dark Knight Rises is very, very underrated, and at the time, I don't know why. I've seen all three of these at the cinema. I think at the time, I remember seeing this at the cinema particularly, but Dark Knight Rises, I don't think is anywhere near as bad as people think. And
okay,
that,
shall I tell you what I think's bad in it? Go on. No, I'll tell you why I disagree.
You were like, tell me why you think's bad in it. No, you go, and then you continue. Go on.
I'll tell you why. You do not send the entire bloody police force underground and then lock them up. Like that was shitty writing.
Probably,
like,
yeah.
I very rarely saw on this pod, but that was poor. Like it was bad. It felt like a real. There's lots of good elements to it. I love the comeback of Batman. I love we get the breaking of the back and the comeback and the struggle, and we get the whole. You know, there's it just feels like there are a few moments that were rushed. It felt like Nolan was just ready to do Interstellar. Well, no, he'd done Interstellar, hadn't he? So he was ready to do the next project, and no, he did Inception instead of afterwards.
Right,
but it just felt like he was done with it, and that may not be the case. Or maybe the plan involved HeathLedger a lot more.
But what I love so much, right? The thing I love about and by the way, we're obviously spoiling the shit out of all this. The Dark Knight Rises, and the reason why this trilogy is so good and so complete is that The Dark Knight Rises is based on the graphic novel Nightfall, which is one of my favourite Batman novels ever. And what that novel does...
The Long Halloween.
I don't think it's based on that. I don't think it's based on that. So Nightfall is basically... It takes place over a period of 6 months, and Batman is run down over this period of time by all of these like villains, and eventually Bane traps him and breaks his back, the breaking of the bat. And so when it's a big thing, it's almost like the death of Superman. The death of Superman is one of the I think there's 4 books in that series where obviously Superman's killed, and hence why it's called that, so it's no spoilers. And it's one of the most famous Superman stories because of that. It's a significant moment. And so when I was reading Nightfall, I'm like, oh my god, Bane has done him. And so the fight scene with Tom Hardy and Christian Bale when he's trapped by Catwoman, in that, and there's no music at all, and you just hear the and the reason why it's so good is because Batman's, listen to me, this is a Batman Begins episode and I'm going off on Batman Dark Knight Rises.
We'll do the whole trilogy.
We will do the whole trilogy at some point. But the reason why I love that scene so much is because Batman has been gone for, I think it's about 8 years off the top of my head, in from the Dark Knight
in the universe,
he's gone for about 8 years. He's limping, he's not strong, and so he then has to eventually just get out of bed and start training again to go and face Bane. And the way that, obviously, they've also got Tom Hardy. You can rely on Tom Hardy for doing something to his body. There's a scene where he lowers himself down off this chain, and he's got muscles on muscles on muscles, and it's like I remember seeing it and I was like, oh my god, like Christian Bale he's done, like it's over. And so when that happens and he's got to kind of essentially, I love it. So anyway, look, this is not
I'm not saying
that.
it's a terrible film. There's just some things that felt rushed or like they hadn't thought about in the script. And when you watch
but
it,
it's not.
And you go, but do you know what? The ending of that film, which is the whole seeing like Robin finding the Batcave, I bloody loved. I mean, I saw it at the cinema 3 times, so I've kind of been
very decent. Like it's a very good film.
It's more than decent. Like any film that followed The Dark Knight was not going to be a winner. Like I hate to tell you, like how do you follow that up?
It's not Terminator 3, do you know what I mean? After Terminator 2.
Oh Christ alive!
So
yeah, but anyway,
but it's good.
So back on Batman Begins, is it the best? Is it the best one? That was where this came from. I think it's the one I'd probably rewatch. No, that's not true. I've probably watched Dark Knight the most because between circa 2008 and about 2012, that was probably the Blu-ray that you'd always watch.
Yeah.
But I think Batman Begins is the one I like to watch the most because I get the most from it as a whole, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, cool.
Look, let's. I feel bad because we've really not given Rachel her due either.
So let's talk about this. So I hate in film series when they have to recast because it just really then, like we've just done, makes you overlook a character because you just don't build that connection with them. So I remember we've both, full disclosure, we both watched the Ollie Harper review on Batman Begins, haven't we? And we were talking about that.
No.
Oh, did you not watch it?
No. I try not to before we do the pod just because I don't want.
Okay,
sorry.
He raised a very valid point, which was about he always felt like the chemistry between Christian Bale and Katie Holmes wasn't huge, and he talked about he never really believed that they were like Batman always talks about he wants to leave everything for Rachel, but he never really bought into their relationship, and I don't know. I feel like.
Can I just tell you something really funny? Sorry, I'm just looking why was Katie Holmes replaced in Batman?
Does it just say Tom Cruise?
No.
Sorry.
No, it didn't. It was just like Katie Holmes was replaced by Maggie Gyllenhaal as Rachel Dawes in The Dark Knight, but her exit was due to personal preference, not creative differences. Holmes left to explore other roles and appeared in the movie Mad Money instead. I
bet when she saw the success of The Dark Knight, you'd be kicking yourself, wouldn't you?
You know,
because Batman Begins, by the way, made less money than Superman Returns. True story. And Superman Returns never got a sequel. Yeah.
So Batman Begins was £150 million budget, and because I remember that, and I did write it down, but it did. So it done £373.7 million at the box office. Superman Returns is so I remember going to the cinema to see that box office. Superman Returns box office 391 million, and then budget was 204. You'll have to work that out, John. It did more money, but I think it cost more.
Did it cost more? Oh, we'll take it back. But anyway, in terms of box office, it took more money, but it didn't get anyway. So there we go.
I think it's very similar. But it's a bit of a strange one from Katie Holmes. Imagine that. You would be gutted,
do you
though,
think
wouldn't you?
it is? I'll be honest. I've never. When I revisit Batman Begins, I'm always annoyed she isn't in the sequel. I've never. I know.
I mean, it's strange from her to like not go into the the next one. I find that bizarre.
I didn't fully. The thing about the lack of chemistry between them, I think it's just supposed to be sexual tension rather than being outright. I thought it was subtle enough. It worked for me. I don't know.
Why have you not done the bit? Why have you not done the bit that I was about? Like I was.
It's not who you are underneath. What that?
No, Rachel. I just thought you were going to do that bit.
No, that's for the second one.
But he still does it in that one as well, doesn't he?
Yeah. Well, anyway, I think. I'll tell you my favourite scene involves Rachel, which is she is stuck in the Narrows when the gas gets released, but she's already been privy to it at some point already. She's been exposed to it, so she already has the antidote. Therefore, she doesn't react to when it's all kicking up because she's okay. Because she's got the antidote. She sees that what's really going on as she goes to save a child. And she's like, don't worry, when you see the giant scary bat in the sky with the red eyes. Yeah. It's fine.
Joffrey, isn't it? It's Joffrey.
And it's Joffrey.
From Game of Thrones. I couldn't believe that Joffrey from Game of Thrones is in this.
Angry face of his.
Hate him.
Anyway, at that point, he gives Rachel the antidote. No, does he give Rachel the antidote to put out into the city? Am I making this up?
I don't know.
He basically has to reveal to Rachel. Sorry, because we've recorded this. I actually watched this last week, or was it a week and a half ago now? Anyway, he says he has to let Rachel know. She's like, "How do I know I can trust you?" And he's like, "It's not who you are underneath, but what you do fight you." And she goes, "Bruce," and it goes, "Bum, bum, bum." Boom, Hans Zimmer score, and it's let's talk about it as well. Hans Zimmer's score for this is banging. I mean, I know people complain about the fact like it doesn't have the same symphonic melodies that you get kind of from like the 1989 Batman has such a definitive theme, and the animated series has such a distinctive theme tune. Yeah. And then even Batman Forever and Batman and Robin for their sins have a really distinctive theme as well, which was different. And then this went completely the other way. It's basically two notes. It's like D-E, isn't it? It just goes bah, bah, and that's Batman's theme, and then add a load of drums. And then James Newton Howard and Hans Zimmer worked together. James Newton Howard did the score for the romantic and like life sequences, and then Hans Zimmer solely did the Batman sequences. And then by the time they got to the third film, Hans Zimmer just did all of it because he'd already got the leitmotifs he needed for the love theme and what have you. But I there's a complaint that the score's pretty generic and it could be applied to any film and still fit, and I kind of get that, but I feel like when people said that was before the trilogy had come out. By the time you got to that third film, everyone knew, and they heard the "Whoa," they were waiting for like the next note. Do you know what I mean? So I think it kind of took on that life of its own. And also, film scores have changed. Like you don't really have like a distinctive theme and leitmotif that's repeated throughout as much these days. It's more about like atmosphere and ambience. Like David Fincher films, you have Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, and you don't have themes. You have like sounds.
I think that the last
Hans Zimmer's in between on that.
Yeah, what's really weird is like The Batman had a very I think that's a very memorable theme.
But it is, but again, it's that one went from Christian Bale's one is two notes, da da, and then but the Batman was more like a rhythm because it was bum 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 bum.
Yeah,
and it just builds and builds and builds. But the brass and whatever, there's like
I love how you can just whack out a score like just.
I listen to film music more than I listen to normal music, which is why I'm crap at finding out any new bands or anything. Anyway. The way it builds is that it builds the tension of the Batman's about to come out, right? That's kind of the whole thing. But you know, this era of Hans Zimmer, he was everywhere, here, there, everywhere. He just done Pirates, he's done Black Hawk Down, he's done,
yeah. Why do we fall, Master Bruce? So we can pick ourselves up again. Michael Caine in this.
We haven't even mentioned Michael Caine. Yeah. Michael Caine's incredible in this. And
I don't like.
Jamie, I love him.
He does my head in a little bit as Alfred.
So much. So the best thing with Michael Caine for me in this film is we forgot to mention the League of Shadows come to Bruce's house to be like, by the way, mate, you might think that dressing up as the Bat's doing well for you.
This is wicked.
We're burning this house down. Like literally, we're going to
he's
burn
got a party
your mansion
though.
down.
He's having a party because it's his birthday. It's Bruce Wayne's
Bruce
birthday.
has to like pretend to be pissed to kick everyone out of the house to save them.
Sycophantic suck ups, like all giving it all that pat to get everyone out. This is not a joke. Get out.
Yeah, and
it's brilliant.
Yeah, and basically Bruce escapes down to the Batcave. But sorry, before that, why is Alfred getting some woman in the back of a car? When he carries her outside. I'm trying to remember.
Rachel. Is it not Rachel? It's Rachel because she's
right. Not by Batman. She was drugged by someone else. But there's just this sequence where like he gets seen and he's like, doesn't he say something like, "Oh, she's just had one too many," and it's like super sus. But
a bit worse for wear this one.
That's it. Like just Michael Caine just like effortlessly off. But no, I think Michael Caine as a father figure really works, and he has so much to do in the latter two. And my God, his nod in the third film makes me want to cry. You know, like that one simple gesture.
It makes that is gorgeous. Like the only
takes a lot for Jamie to say positive things about Nolan these days as well. So you know.
No. I think these films are fantastic. I really love Morgan Freeman as Lucius Fox. Like, I think that he's so cool and he's so perfect as that character as well. Like,
he's just the whole "don't treat me like an idiot, Mr. Wayne."
He's one of the boys, you know. Like he's one of the boys, and he's trying to get his pension. He's trying to get a good pension from Wayne. You know, like he's like, look, I'm getting on a bit now, and I know that if I treat this man good,
I'll be set.
I can't lie if I don't know what it is. It's good.
I also like in this film the other storyline is they're trying to take Bruce Wayne's company public as the other rumbling in the background. So Rutger Hauer's trying to say like, well, look,
I forgot he was in it.
And when they come back, R.I.P. by the way, because I love Rutger Hauer. And when they come back, Bruce basically tries to stop them, and by the end of the film, Rutger Hauer tries to get rid of Lucius Fox, and he's like, "Didn't you get the memo?" And then by the end of the film, we get the role reversal when Lucius Fox goes to tell him that Rutger Hauer's been sacked by Bruce Wayne.
That's
like,
good, isn't it? It's really good.
Love that kind of salty nature.
Yeah. Succession, isn't it? It's a bit of Succession.
A little bit, but I mean, I love Succession. But that's a
right. Should we answer some questions then?
Let's do it. Can I just say, this is probably the most fun I've had talking about these films in ages. I love those Batman films, and I think they came out at such a good time for me because like 2005 is like, we would just say about those X-Men films, like peak blockbustery kind of time when the cinema felt super engaging.
I just finished, as I say, I just finished my GCSE, so I was so into cinema at this point. Like, but I was watching different things. This is when I was obviously still enjoying, like, I would enjoy loads of blockbusters and stuff, but I was getting into Goodfellas and started to get into like film. I was starting to get into pictures, John.
I do love a picture.
Me too. Right, Movie Scenes and Shit writes in, and he says, fan cast Batman Begins with 2000s names, and why is it Ben Affleck?
What does this mean?
So he wants us to fan cast. So he wants us to pick an actor for like the main characters in Batman Begins from 2000s names, but I think he means like maybe like early 2000s names. So
before Begins.
Yeah. So I mean, I've got like I'll go for some here. So straight away, if we're still going for like that Lucius Fox vibe, I'm having Denzel Washington as Lucius Fox. I think that'd be pretty good. I would like that. I would probably then go for. So I'd personally have. I'm just having a look here. Falcone. So Falcone, I reckon I'd probably have Sean Penn as Falcone.
He'd be good. I like that.
He would be good. Yeah, he would be good. Alfred's a bit more of a difficult one. Because
I actually thought Mr. Baldwin, Alec Baldwin would be good, like a good Alfred.
Alec Baldwin,
like low key, more because I'm looking for like an opposite of Michael Caine, but like not having it.
No. I think that'd be pretty good. So how about this? How about this for Gordon? Philip Seymour Hoffman as.
Oh my God! Why did he not do anything Batman? It would have been so good.
Yeah, Philip Seymour Hoffman as Gordon, I think, is a shout and a half.
Yeah.
So I would have that. And then who would we have for Batman? I mean, that's pretty.
2000s, like they'd be like Justin Timberlake. No.
Can I give you one? Can I give you one that's like
Go.
probably slightly cop out-ish, but like, what about Brad Pitt? Is he too small?
No, like, should I tell you who I've always wanted to be as Batman, and it would have been around that time, height of fame, really, in terms of popularity due to this TV show 24. Kiefer Sutherland. I think he'd be a great
Batman. He's got a voice, hasn't he? He's got
his
a voice. Yeah,
I
he's
love,
got a voice on him.
He's got the jawline. Admittedly, I think he's probably a little bit shorter than some of the other Batmen, but I don't see a problem with that.
They can always make people look bigger, though, can't they?
Kiefer Sutherland, I feel like he's just got gravitas and his intensity, and I can imagine him beating the crap out of people as Batman in the 90s especially. Sorry, late 90s, early 2000s. Yeah. I'm into that. And then if they got Robin, remember they filmed scenes, didn't they, with one of the Wayans brothers? He was supposed to be Robin. That was supposed to be a thing. So back then in 2000s, do you reckon they could have got DiCaprio as Robin? Would he have been too big by then? Because he was up for the role of Anakin Skywalker once upon a time, wasn't he? So,
I mean, that would be like big time, baby. So do you know who would you have as Ra's al Ghul? Because do you know who I'm thinking?
How do you recast Liam Neeson? Because
well, you recast him with Ed Harris. I just think he's got that like nastiness, like
he's
about
got the
him,
streak. I don't know.
Anyway, so
he'd be a good creepy scarecrow, completely different to like I forgot his bloody name now, Cillian Murphy, but like.
Yeah, it's difficult. I don't know who I don't really know who I'd have as Scarecrow.
What about Rachel?
Yes. Oh God, Rachel.
It's got to be Jennifer Aniston. If it's the Katie Holmes equivalent of early 2000s, it's just Jennifer Aniston, isn't it? Who's popular? Like Jennifer Aniston, she'll bring the punters in. Get her in.
Jennifer Aniston or what's her name?
Go on.
She's got dark hair. Cruz.
Penelope Cruz,
I think would be a pretty good Rachel.
I mean, okay, yeah, why not?
I think she'd be good. I mean,
2000s.
Do you know what? Yeah, this is our film.
J-Lo.
Right? No one's gonna stop us.
J-Lo. She was popular then. She was acting. Well, Halle Berry back then. She was like.
But did she not do Catwoman around that time? Which was absolutely atrocious.
Do you know what? Yeah, she did.
Yeah. Anyway, what a terrible film.
I don't think I've actually seen that all the way through. That's one of those things I've watched on ITV2, like the last 20 minutes. Was like, and that's enough of me.
Yeah, I don't even know. Like the only I think Jennifer Aniston would be. That's a really good shout, actually.
I'm just saying, back then it's a bit like, why did George Clooney get cast as Batman? It's because he was super popular. Do you know
Angelina
what I mean?
Jolie was really popular as well at the time.
Yeah, good shout.
She'd have been pretty popular, but the thing is as well. You've already got like Nicole Kidman shortly before that doing being the love interest as well. So there you go. There's a few little. That's something to think about, isn't it?
So can I lead to the David Ellis's question after this? Is that okay?
You go for it, mate.
It says, what's one change you would make to the Dark Knight trilogy to make it even better? I think I've kind of mentioned this, but I just like the fact of making Gotham more consistent, because it does feel like a completely different city in the first one to the latter two. I feel like I don't know whether they just kind of went quite hard on the special effects for the first one and went, we don't want to do that. We can just film it in Chicago and use real locations and then just save the budget for other things. But I just feel like there is a slight disconnect visually between them for that reason, and that's being super harsh and super critical. And the only other change I would make is to just tidy up some of the writing in the third one. I don't think you would have sent your entire police force to one place so the city had no police anywhere else. I think that's BS. I just
silly, isn't it? It's a bit silly. I'll be honest, I don't want to criticise.
If all the West Midlands police went to something like that and then there were no police around, I feel like
there's not enough for them, mate, to be fair. So if the West Midlands police went there, there'd be about all of them on shift. There'd be about 4 of them anyway. Yeah. For me, the change that I'd make to the Dark Knight trilogy, I think probably I would want to see. I think that the third one, the premise of the third one is a little bit wild. So, like, I think it's a bit like. Almost a little bit too far-fetched in terms of like
what, Gotham being separated, the bomb's going to go off, or?
Yeah, and like that Scarecrow's like turns out to be like ends up being like the mayor of Gotham or whatever. Like it's just but I know that that's in the comics as well anyway, but we are talking about a really grounded trilogy.
interpretation.
But at the same time, like, it's really difficult, David, because this Dark Knight trilogy it doesn't really get much better than that, really. Like, it's so...
It's one of the better trilogies, isn't it? How many trilogies actually follow through? I mean, the best trilogy ever is probably Lord of the Rings, I think, in terms of the fact it's actually written as a trilogy.
It definitely is. Yeah.
It's coherent and yada
What about Final Destination, the first trilogy of Final Destination?
They're all right films.
I'm taking a piss.
I think the other thing is, like, there's not really many other good trilogies. I mean, even original Star Wars has, like, continuity errors here or there, and, you know, with Luke and Leia and stuff. So, like, I really like those three films, but they don't really flow as one. Whereas Batman Begins all the way through does flow as one narrative story. It's about it's funny enough. It's about Batman beginning. Dark Knight is about the struggle, the moment of, do I need to give this up because I'm going to go to a better life with the person I love? They then die. And then he's like, for the better of Gotham, Batman has to be a bad guy, not a good guy. And then the third one's about, obviously, funnily enough, the Dark Knight Rising, because he has to return to save the city, and his sacrifice saves it for everyone, and he gets to live happily ever after. I mean, it's a perfect trilogy. Like, and the things that happen to him in the third film when he breaks his back, it still goes back to why do we fall Master Bruce, so we learn to pick ourselves up again.
It's hard. I'll be honest. It's
pretty much
quite hard
perfect,
to criticize. Like, it's really hard to criticize. Like,
it making me want to watch the other two now. You know,
one change you would make. I guess the only other change I may make would maybe to just spend a little bit more time with Bruce Wayne.
In two, specifically.
Yeah.
If in the Dark Knight,
I don't think you spend much time with him in the third one either, really.
No, I think we get
like,
more
as Bruce, though. As Bruce. But again, like
that never bothers me.
We are kind of. I'll be honest. I'm clutching at straws. Like, I am clutching at straws.
And
but
then,
tighten up the writing, basically. Like,
I love the superhero question. We've got another one here, which was also from David Ellis. He says, does having multiple reboots of a superhero franchise erode people's interest over time, or does it just give audiences more opportunity to discover a favourite version of that character which they'll love forever? Now, we've talked about this before.
Sorry, can we just say as well, because it kind of ties into Patch's question, where's next for superhero movies? Is it a case of please God, no more, or yes please, I can't wait for 4 or 5? So I guess we can tackle both of them
2 parts
after each other. Yeah, so go for it. You go first.
Yeah, so I think part one of this is, I've always said there are multiple graphic novels and multiple versions of a character. So I think you could have a Tom Holland Spider-Man film come out, and you could have a Tobey Maguire Spider-Man film come out today in the same year, and audiences understand they're in separate universes and can go with it. I feel like pre-multiverse people they didn't think audiences could cope with this, but if you're asking me now, I feel like they can. So I kind of wish some studios did do it. I'd be intrigued to see. Imagine if they did a third Michael Keaton Batman film. They kind of hinted at it in The Flash, but imagine if they did that tomorrow. Yeah. I think you could do that now. You could release Spider-Man 4 with Tobey Maguire in a year's time, and I feel like audiences are clued up enough now to know, oh, it doesn't affect the Tom Holland one, it's different. I don't...
I think I kind of feel what David was getting at was the multiple reboots. So we've basically had the Adam West Batman. We've then had in
recent times we've gone from Bale to Affleck in like not a long period of time. It's like 5 years.
But also we've had Michael Keaton with Tim Burton. Then straight after that we had Val Kilmer. Then straight after that we had George Clooney. Then straight after that we've had the Nolan. Well, not straight after, but shortly after Nolan trilogy. Then we've had Ben Affleck. Then we've had who's the Robert Pattinson. So that's 5. That's 7.
And then we went back to Clooney at the end of The Flash.
Yeah, and Superman's the same. So Superman, we've had we had a Superman before the 1978 one. Then we had Christopher Reeve that did it for absolutely ages. Then we had Superman Returns. Was that the next one?
Yeah, Brandon Routh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in between that we've got Clark Kent and Lois Lane. The Adventures of Superman and Lois Lane.
Yeah.
And then we've got
sorry.
Yeah, basically what I'm saying is it's weird because having multiple reboots of a superhero franchise for me it's weird because I am always saying that there's too many superhero films. However, when things are done well, I was still really excited for the Batman with Robert Pattinson, and I loved it. and I'm excited for the next one. And have I seen too much Batman? Yeah, of course I have. But when it's done well, you can't really argue with it. And so what I would say is, I think it does give. I think I'm kind of leaning towards the latter part of the question. I think it does give audiences more opportunity to discover a favorite version. Because when I was a kid, I guess my version of Batman was Batman Forever. Batman Forever was the one for me.
Yeah.
And then when you kind of have a gap and you're a kid and you're growing up and you've got friends,
it's like Bonds, isn't it? Like
exactly.
I have the Bond for me growing up was Pierce Brosnan, but then I know,
and he wasn't my Bond.
Yeah. Daniel Craig was then my Bond, but then Connery was my Bond because he was the first one I ever saw. I never really bought into Roger Moore. Yeah, I think we're blessed. Oh god, that sounds really cheesy, but no, I think to be in an era where there are so many versions, so you can enjoy whichever version you want to enjoy. That's fine. And
do you know what else you can do as well? And maybe I need to take my own advice. Is also like, you just don't have to watch it, do you? Really?
No.
Like if you've had enough,
don't like a version of it. Like I know people hate the Snyder DC EU interpretation, but I always saw it like the Injustice universe. In the Injustice universe in the games, it's like the darker edge to it. And I just feel like people who we say this before, I feel like it had ideas and it really stuck with them and it had a very distinctive vision. And even if you don't like that vision, you've got to respect the fact it was actually doing something, because we have loads of trashy other films from another comic book provider which don't have anything to say, don't have a specific tone or anything, and it's just trying to crowd please. But ironically, the crowds have now gone. So I just feel like, yeah.
So then, where's next for superhero movies? Is it a case of, please God, no more? Or, yes please, I can't wait for Thor 5?
I really want them to do what they did with the Batman, which was kind of say, this isn't connected to anything. This is just a film. This is a one-off.
I think that's what they did at the 2000s, kind of, early 2000s.
Yeah.
Superhero films. That's when it's better, because the problem with all of...
You make a good film first,
yeah,
rather than setting up a universe. And the biggest issues with the DCEU they had was they were trying to catch up to bloody Avengers for so long that by the time they got to Justice League, they ran out of steam. We needed 2 Man of Steel films. We needed a Ben Affleck solo movie. We needed an Aquaman film beforehand. We never got those things because they were rushing. So, yeah.
We did get an Aquaman film, but...
No, but it's after. Do you see what I mean?
Oh, right, yeah.
We didn't get introduced to people slowly, but surely we rushed.
We got a Flash film like 3 years, or no, many years later. It's crazy, really.
Can I just say though, Keaton in that was so much fun. My best part of that film was watching Michael Keaton as Batman.
Yeah,
tear it up again.
I think the next for superhero movies is that it all falls down, and we kind of go back to, and I do think we are going to see that happen. We've gone back to the Batman. I think Disney have realised that the game is up. Like, it's literally up. They need to be like, right, this is the last phase of this bullshit now.
No, they bring everyone back. They do another Infinity War level threat and say everyone is back. Robert Downey Jr. is back.
That sounds awful.
That's what they're doing.
I would put
money on if what. How do you bring audiences back? What do the audience love? They like Spider-Man, right? He's still alive. We've got him, but we have to pay Sony half the profit, so we don't like that. So what can we do that's better? Do we give a massive boatload of money to Robert Downey Jr. and have a convoluted plot where he comes back and ruin his sacrifice? Do we bring back? That's the way they go. Trusted IP and thingy, and yeah. Anyway, we're off topic.
Well, they've changed all the characters now, and so. They wanted it to be this brand new phase. Like, no one cares.
But the problem was, the truth is, if we're being honest, they peaked at Endgame because culturally, people had had enough after 12 years. People loved to be rewarded with Endgame, but it felt like the end. I forever said this, and no one bloody listened, but who cares about my opinion? If you'd have had a 5-year gap after Endgame, the appetite would have been massive.
Imagine. Money, though, but like money.
No, I know, but they were like, do you know what? Why can't we make them all to make as much money as Endgame was their thought process? And it's like, no, like Endgame.
We say it all the time, don't we? So like me and John say it about business in general, like all the time. It's like, it's always got to be bigger. It's what?
Infinite growth.
It's got to be more. It's got to be more. Like
more. And it's like, yeah.
There's got to be a time when we sit here and we're like, that's enough now. That's enough money. Like we've made enough money, and so we're going to just do something different for a bit. Like, keep everyone in jobs, but we're going to, like, all the backroom staff and stuff, but we're going to just do something different for a little bit.
This is, I think, why the Batman films do well, though, because they end up having massive breaks, even if they don't choose to. This has had a massive
break already. Like,
well, because I joke saying, is that Batman film cancelled? Well, if it's not and it comes back, I think people will bite their hand off for it because they've not been expecting it. Do you know what I mean? It'll be genuinely an anticipation for it, whilst Marvel's reputation is, they'll bung it out on Disney Plus in a few months, even if it's crap or good.
Yeah.
Anyway,
well,
cool.
There you go.
Noisy bike.
So,
It's a very noisy bike. Sorry.
Well, where do you live, John? Anyway, we're gonna move on to the next film, are we?
No, I've got two more things. One more question I think related to this, which is, Kate says, how different would the world be if Snyder took over the DCU fresh off Dawn of the Dead instead of Nolan? So, I think. Are you referencing the fact if he basically did Batman Begins rather than
Nolan?
I mean, I feel like he'd probably do pretty much what he did, but he'd probably be even more faithful to year one because he'd just come off Watchmen 300, which were incredibly faithful adaptations.
Wasn't Dawn of the Dead out before Watchmen and 300?
Oh my god, yes, it was.
I think it was. So
I don't know then.
I mean, I think you can just imagine Watchmen, and I think you could just imagine it being a very faithful, but with Snyder's visual flair, which, if I'm being honest, what that means to me, so what this means to me, Kate, is that if Snyder did this, that means that the Nolan versions don't exist, and I just cannot let that happen, because the Nolan trilogy is unreal, and the Snyder trilogy would be simply not as good. I just don't think it would be as good. It'd be different.
Kate, we all know we already have 3 Snyder DCU films we can thoroughly enjoy, which are genuinely good. I love Man of Steel, and I'll be referencing Man of Steel when we talk about Superman. I think Batman v Superman is very underrated, and I think when people go back to it, they will still realise it is better than, I'd say, at least 75% of the mid-tier Marvel stuff that came out that were pure, as Jamie once said on our most highest grossing viewed clip ever on the pod, releasing pure 6 out of 10s and raving about them as if they were the second coming.
Yes,
so yeah,
that's right.
I mean, yeah, it's I still think those films will age a lot better than the Marvel ones will. I think it's already happening. I genuinely believe, give it 10 more years and look back at those 3 films.
Because they're more like films, though. That's why I think they're more like films, whereas the Marvel...
They're not just a trailer for the next thing. They are... Well, look, let's be clear. Batman v Superman has those elements in it. But on the whole, I think they're better individual pieces of work.
Oh, like, it's not even a question.
And on that basis, let's talk about a very good individual piece of work by Mr. Richard Donner, which is 1978's Superman, the movie.
From a doomed planet in a distant galaxy to a fantastic underground hideaway, from the Fortress of Solitude to the bustling city room of the Daily Planet. Look, up on the screen. It's Superman. Superman, the movie.
The movie. Thanks for specifying.
I want to turn my red light on because it went off because it's not plugged in.
You go get it.
We're talking about Superman, so let me go do that.
You go turn your red light on.
I'm going to keep this on.
I want to feel like I'm back in Amsterdam, and I want you to go and turn your red light on, so it feels super X-rated in here before we talk about this 12 or maybe even less than 12. Anyway, so this is 1978. Dickie Donner, as many people call him, and this is essentially about we see the growth of, there we go, John, that looks good. We see Clark Kent, we see the classic story from a boy growing up to be a man, and the main premise of this film is that the baddie, played by Gene Hackman, who always plays a fantastic baddie, he's brought up loads of the desert, and if I'm right, he wants to basically make an earthquake and destroy all the housing of
to make a new beachfront. He's basically making his own beachfront. He's buying up loads of desert, so when he nukes the coast, it means he will be the new coast, so his land will be far more worth far more than it currently is, because it will be Costa del Costa
del Lex. Costa del Lex, yeah. So yeah, something ridiculous like that.
Absolutely ridiculous.
Can I just make an observation before we start? Is this a film? Is this has this got the most different actors playing the same character in a film ever? Because we've got baby Clark Kent, we've got slightly bigger
boy.
naked boy Clark Kent picking up the truck. We've got preppy college Clark Kent that
Dubbed over
there's
by,
definitely DTF. He's definitely DTF. And then we've got
Oh, well.
do you know what DTF stands for?
Yes, I do, but I don't know why he is. But
Are you
anyway, go on.
DTF, John, right now?
No. Shut up. Anyway, yeah.
And then we've got Christopher Reeve playing Clark Kent. I love it. I actually love it. Shut up.
Shut up. I can't believe you've done this. Anyway, I sent that to Jamie again the other day because I've forgotten about it, and it's great. Let's talk about this film in terms of it opens with like a theatre curtains opening, which kind of takes you off guard. It's like I kind of like that touch to it. And then you get the opening title sequence, which is they'd learned to do this kind of effect where the titles fly past you and go.
Yeah, it's very
and it
exciting.
is quite long. However, if you watch the 4K release of this film, the new sound mix they did is pretty damn good, isn't it? I would say it's a really good, like, sometimes when they take an older film and add a new sound mix to it, it doesn't feel right. But I believe on this transfer, you can still listen to the original.
Yes, you can.
Stereo mix, which is
I've
cool.
got the. I went out and bought the 4K of this. Yeah.
And then the 5.1 mix or 7.1 mix of it is glorious, and the title sequence especially, and the way they've picked the music out is great. And we see for the first time, I've forgotten the bloody name of the planet.
The planet Krypton.
Well,
Krypton.
are we going off Marlon Brando or are we going off? So Marlon Brando
not
says
going off Marlon Brando. Put
He
it that
says
way.
Krypton because Marlon Brando obviously couldn't be arsed, and the allegedly he left cards in where the baby was with these lines on because he couldn't be bothered to learn them.
David Ellis writes it in, and he says, "Was Marlon Brando really worth all that money in Superman?"
Christopher Reeve just had beef with him, didn't he? Like, he always slagged him off, said he was terrible to work with and all these things, which is really interesting.
It's weird because it's Marlon Brando and he's not in it for very long either. So I'm going to straight up.
He adds gravitas, doesn't he?
I'm going to straight up say that I just don't think he was really needed in this. Yeah, of course he adds gravitas, but at the same time he's not in it for very long.
Comic book pictures, or whatever you want to call them at this point, where people were thinking Adam West Batman.
I think you'll find their CBMs.
Okay, CBMs. But you've got to think at this point, like, it wasn't a done thing to do a comic book film, and everyone told Christopher Reeve not to do it. So to be able to get someone such as Marlon Brando to add that gravitas to it and to get Gene Hackman on board.
You come to me on the day of my son's birth.
It kind of brings in, like, this is a reputable production, like, we're not fanning around, this is going to be it. And to be fair, it is. I mean, look, we'll get into it, but excuse me, this film for me, I really like the opening. I like pretty much up until the first night Superman reveals himself. I don't enjoy the second half.
Wild.
Which is super controversial, but I'll get
Trust
into
me, it is.
I'll tell you why. The film starts in a very serious tone. So when we're on Krypton, or Krypton, we basically find out that Superman's dad, Jor-El, is saying to everyone, this planet is going to die. And the scientist is like, it's not going to die, it's fine. He's like, no, trust me, it's going to die. So I'm going to send my son off in this magic star, spaceship that looks like a star, and send him off to Earth because it's where our ancestors, or where we know people who are humanoids in form, are going to send him there. He'll be safe. But he knows that by sending him there, he'll be a god to them, you know. Yeah. And he'll be different. But
again,
like,
we've seen the beginning of Superman a million times, and we've seen the beginning of Batman a million times, where his parents get shot. You know?
But it's I must say, the direction and the sequence of the destruction of Krypton, this is way better than I remembered.
Really?
Way better than I remembered. In my head, it wasn't very good, but it's
55 million budget.
Yep, and you've got to remember the special effects for this were by Derek Meddings, who just come off the Bond films, but previous to that, he started on Thunderbirds back in the day, one of my favourites, so that's really cool. He unfortunately wasn't able to do the latter sequences because he was double booked on a Bond production, so that's why the miniature work in the last sequence in the dam doesn't look as good, because he didn't do it. But yes, Superman, we see weirdly, so they shot Superman 1 and 2 back to back. Jamie, I'm guessing you know this. And when they shot 1 and 2 back to back, they put in the bad guys for the latter film, the second film, at the start of this film.
Yes.
And, you know, we get the shouty... what's the actor's name? I've forgotten him. He's a senator in The Phantom Menace. Chancellor Valorum. But I forgot his actual name. Let me get it up.
Yeah,
right.
you find that, 'cause I'm not sure. They put them in the famous... Well, the scene that's been made more famous by Family Guy, where they put them in the pane of glass for eternity. It's called something, though. It's called something about eternity or something. And this is where, like, there is people like David Ellis who's screaming. He's like, it's the bloody whatever.
I hate when I do this. I'm doing it. I'm being that person.
Yeah. Yeah. So... Anyway, it escapes me. Like, it's funny because I read it the other time. I read it like not long ago. But yeah, they put them in a glass of eternity or whatever it is.
But basically, we see their Zod, and Zod is always a great baddie. Like
Eternity Glass, it's called. No, it's not.
Whether it's him or Michael Shannon. I mean, okay. Terrence Stamp plays General Zod, and he doesn't get the Michael Shannon, I will find him, but we get something pretty similar. And he's like, you know, he does say your heirs, Joel, doesn't he? He's like, we'll find them, Joel, your hers.
Yeah, they do, yeah.
And we get some cool
The Phantom Zone. Sorry,
the Phantom Zone. That is the one.
Yeah, it's they sent him to the Phantom Zone. Yeah.
Anyway, so we then see Superman's journey after the destruction of Krypton. We get these really impressive model effects, and then as he's there, he's learning all these different things. So you see this baby just chilling out, and there's just all these like astronomy shows going on in his cabin, telling him, he's like, and they whisper a few times to him. Marlon Brando's like, but you must never reverse time. Reversing time is bad. And it's like, I wonder if that will come back at any point in the film.
Sadly it does.
When we're on Krypton, very, very serious, very end of the world, very like, you know, Shakespearean dramatic. When we see Clark growing up, again, it's very low-key, it's not played for laughs. We see Clark crash down to Earth, literally, and he's in this massive, like he looks like this massive mine shaft, doesn't it, by the end of it?
Yeah.
And he's obviously picked up by Martha and Clark, and they take him in because they don't have a child of their own. They say, oh, we'll say it's our cousin's child or whatever. And they take him in, and
sounds legit.
They realise he's special because he picks up the truck with like one arm, doesn't he? Or is it two arms?
He like, picks it up like that, and he's like
a naked 3-year-old who's managed to lift a truck, and they're like, right, okay then. And we kind of get the with great power comes great responsibility speech later, because Clark's at secondary school now.
Yes, we do.
According to Jamie, he's DTF. I don't know where he's got this from, but anyway, he's
just like John right now, DTF.
Oh God, just because I got my red light on. And anyway, and yeah, so basically Clark's trying to not show off at high school, but struggling because he can't be on the football team.
He's
but
a teenage boy, isn't he?
Absolutely smash it and like win every record.
Yeah.
And his dad's saying to him the classic, well, yeah, you could do that, but that would be showing off, and that's not what you want to do. And he then runs and keeps up with this train, and like there's this beautiful moment where the girl's like, oh, mummy, there's a man running outside. She's like, yeah, whatever. And you see him running along, and
yeah.
And you get this lovely John Williams score. But then he races and he turns up somewhere where a car's got there in time. They're like, how the hell did you get here? And he's like, oh, I ran. And his dad's a bit like, oh, been showing off a bit, are we, Clark? You know, it's not...
Glenn Ford.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, Jonathan is the dad. Clark's obviously the son. My bad. Anyway, obviously his dad has a heart attack and dies. And what's quite sad, really. That moment is Superman can't really stop that. That is just a thing that will happen, right? And that's kind of where Superman grows up, because Clark realizes that he's like, all this power and I can't save him. And it's like, well, no, you can't, because you can't stop natural things like that happening. And then we time jump, to see Metropolis for the first time, and we get our first night of Superman, don't we?
Our first night of Superman.
I am going to discuss cinematography, but I'll do it after. Let's kind of go through the plot, and then we'll go through.
Well, I think most people have probably the people that are listening to this will have
seen it.
Mostly seen it. So we can move on.
yeah, when we get the first night of Superman, what I love is you see the different things. So the helicopter, he basically saves a helicopter, doesn't he? And Lois is in the helicopter. Not only does he catch her, but he manages to fly the helicopter back up. All of that looks brilliant. The tone at that point is still really serious. The thing I can't stand is as soon as we get to Gene Hackman dicking around downstairs in his little like underground fortress.
That's very James Bond, I think.
It's super campy and it just feels so out of touch.
Very 70s Bond, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, very Roger Moore.
Austin
era.
Powers, like...
It starts so serious, and for 40 minutes it's a really serious film, and then it just feels like we go into this campy, kind of over-the-top performances from, as I just said, from Gene Hackman, and I just find it frustrating because... And you know, you've got Otis, his guy bumbling around him. I just never liked that bit of the film. I always loved the first bit. I loved the first rescue and the first evening. And we have to talk about Christopher Reeve. Christopher Reeve is the best for me at being Superman and Clark Kent because he literally does one single move of his jawline and his posture and you know he's one or the other. And it's just
wonderful, isn't he? He's
so
wonderful.
good.
Yeah.
The suit, I think, is perfect. It's comic accurate. I think the way... It's shot in quite an understated way in this. I mean, one of the things Nolan took from these films were the fact they were quite dirty and gritty, and it looked like quite realistic. That was kind of the vibe they went for.
Yeah,
which is why I find the campy tone odd. If it looks natural and realistic and dirty and gritty, why then pair it with a campy tone? But maybe that's just me being cynical because we're so used to serious adaptations of these characters now. And look, I know Superman is supposed to be more of a light-hearted take on things or a more optimistic take, so maybe that's just me being moody, but yeah, the second half of the film I always struggle with, and I always feel like it's a film I should like a lot more than I do, but I just find it difficult. As soon as we get to when Superman's in Lex's base and he's been outthought because he's shoved kryptonite on him, and I don't like the fact
shoved kryptonite on him.
Well, you know, this whole kind of like, so Superman does the first night and the press are really into him, and Margot Kidder plays Lois Lane.
Who's wonderful, by the way.
Absolutely fantastic. And she's kind of besotted with Superman, and he turns up at her house, and the interplay between those two in that sequence is fantastic, isn't it? The whole, like, you know, where do you come from, what do you eat, all those things, and she's just trying to gauge him. Yeah. And he does give away, I'm my weakness is I can't see through things with lead and this and that, and it does seem a bit mad to me he'd give that away, but hey ho, it is a comic book film. So yeah, there's elements of that I don't like. And when they do the flying sequence together, it is cheesy when she's doing the poem. Can you fly like a man in the sky?
So
Am I a bird?
So what I did write down was when she's flying up with him. So when they're in the air, I love that meeting on the top of the terrace. It's playful, it's funny. It's like you see a completely different side to Clark. You see you essentially see the real side
because she's actually being like a little girl who's just like awed rather than being like the authoritative one in. Because when he's Clark, he's such a bumbling mess, and they're just
bumbling.
So
he's a fool, isn't he? Like he's just a completely like jittery like mess. Yeah, and so the cockiness and the confidence that you can really buy into from Christopher Reeve when he is Superman on the terrace. And it's not in a dislikable way, and it could have easily come across as like quite arrogant if it was played like slightly differently. But I love that meeting. Like it's funny. Like they're joking with each other, and the writing is good. Like it's genuinely funny, and it's just really playful. The flight, yes, unless she has the strongest core I've ever seen, her legs would not be sticking out the back like that.
Yeah,
and so like she must have an amazing core. And one thing I noticed, that one thing that we definitely disagreed on, like you and I, John, was the cinematography and the focus. Obviously, there's soft focus throughout. Now, I interpreted this differently, so
I don't think there's as much in the start. I feel like it starts when on Krypton it feels like there's no soft focus. As soon as we get to Earth is when we get soft focus. So especially in Kansas,
when he is super. So I don't know whether I'm just that impressionable, but the one thing I noticed was that when they're flying, particularly, it's very soft focus, and you've got the very like exposed, like highly exposed, like bright lights and stuff, and the stars and the moon. And it felt dreamlike to me. And so when you've got the cold light of where are they from? Metropolis.
Kansas.
Metropolis.
So sorry.
When you've got like the cold light of Metropolis, when they're pounding the pavements and that kind of thing, I think it's a much harder focus, and I don't know whether that is an actual, like, it's on purpose. I'm not sure, but I think it's because when he's Superman, we do see a much more dreamlike, softer focus. I think that like Christopher Reeve in general plays this wonderfully, and I didn't realize what a beast he is as well. Like he's so
trained by David Prowse, who played Vader, who was a bodybuilder, i.e. why he was in the Vader suit. Like it was a big deal at the time.
Yeah, he's an absolute tank, and I always forgot that. I was actually more so. This film for me, I find because it is quite long. It's 2 hours and 20 minutes. Yeah, there's a near 3 hour cut of this.
It's the TV one. Yeah.
So, but there's a lot of like stuff that just doesn't need to be there. Obviously, I think that the theatrical cut is absolutely fine. Like I enjoy it. I think it's really well paced for a 2 hours and 20 minute film. The beginning is funny because you say that you love the beginning. I find the bits where he's growing up actually more boring. And I remember being desperate. I was desperate to see him in the suit and excited to see him in the suit.
I like the missile sequence though. You know when he's stopping the missiles, really game for that. Like that's good. Let's be clear, the finale of this film wasn't supposed to be the finale of this film. So the Richard Donner was supposed to do Superman 1 and 2, but he got removed off Superman 2. I can't remember the full behind the scenes why, but basically I think there were money disputes or something. But the producers were really fast and loose with him. But anyway. Yeah. And the end of 2 was supposed to be Superman turning back time. Now, turning back time is always a bit of a cheat, and as an audience you do feel like, I'm not sure. In
the first film, I think it's pretty wild.
It's a bold decision because it feels like nothing ever has any consequence if you always got that up your sleeve.
That's it, isn't it? Like
it takes jeopardy out of any situation. You're like, well, why don't you just go back then? And why don't you do this and why don't you do that? Don't get me wrong, like him flying through the Earth's core and stuff is quite cool, and like it's quite well executed considering it's 1978. Oh well, I think that's brilliant, and you see all of the because of what he's doing with the missiles and stuff. You see kind of the consequence of him flying underground. It's causing earthquakes. It's causing all sorts of issues, and I do quite like that. My main issue again, and it's everyone's main issue is that. But he turns back time in the comic. But do we need to see it in the first one? Because it kind of... But I can't remember what the original conclusion was, but it wasn't supposed to be that. But I do think what it does do is because of his relationship with Lois Lane, Margot Kidder, and played by Margot Kidder, you so want them to be together that you accept that's the only way for that to happen. But that's only because it's written that she dies. She could have not died and he just saved her from that bit. You know what I mean? Like, because the thing is about saving her in the car. So I feel like he could have done the same scenario, and basically just saved her before. I don't know. I think that was controversial at the time, and I think it's one of those things that, as we've said, it's hard to add weight to any situation you then face, which is this problem you have in the sequels. If you do that, however, in the second one, he faces people who are the same race as he is because he's an alien, right?
Yeah.
And when you have 3 aliens from the same race against each other with superpowers, it upped the stakes enough though they could all reverse time technically. So it kind of negated that. But then after that, you then struggle. Like,
I would say that. So I've probably seen the third Superman 3.
You have
more than I've seen any other ones, and I remember I had it on VHS, and I would watch that over and over again because I remember
Dark Superman, bad one.
Yes, and
yeah,
so
that's
when
cool.
So when the stakes in that I find. And I might be misremembering because it's been a very long time since I've seen Superman 3, and people don't rate it. And I don't even think I've ever seen Superman 4, Quest for Peace, or whatever that's called.
I haven't. No.
I think it's a Quest for Peace. So Superman 3, yes. Like I don't even know what the stakes are in Superman 4. I was going to buy the whole of the box set, but it was like 120 quid. So I was like, I simply cannot do that. So I just bought the first one, and I'll kind of just buy them as I go along.
Just buy 2 and ignore the rest.
The third one, I remember, I loved that so much because it does turn Superman evil. It's you got Richard Pryor in the third one, or is it the second one?
Yes, it is. Richard Pryor's in the third one.
Okay, so the third one is definitely the one I've seen loads.
Yeah, Nuclear Man or whatever.
Who?
Nuclear Man or something, isn't it?
Is it? Right, okay. So it basically
yeah.
turns Superman bad, and he I remember he flies to an oil tanker and like rips a hole in the oil tanker so it goes all out in the sea. He crushes coal and makes it into diamonds. But I'm sure that he beats the shit out of normal Superman or normal Clark.
There's a fight between two.
Yeah, and it's horrible. Sure. Like, so I just remember like he really goes in, and you feel. I remember as a kid, and that's the one thing we must remember. So the one thing I'll go back to David Ellis's question was when he said about does it give more audiences more opportunity to discover a favorite version of the character that they'll love forever? The one thing we often forget as adults, and me as a 35-year-old man, is that back then when I seen that was such a big deal. Like, and I was like, I felt sad and I was scared and I was like, oh my God, like and his suit's darker, like he's not as bright as he was, like, and so I think that like when these films are coming out, we it's a shame because we often forget that the next piece of shit Marvel the film that comes out is going to be someone's favorite because they've just jumped in at the right time, or they're young, or they haven't been jaded by all this bullshit.
It's like every person who grows up with a certain era of Star Wars thinks it's the best. So the people who grew up with the prequels think the prequels are the
so
best.
they would think that Rise of Skywalker's good?
Yeah, honest to God.
Well, maybe
there are
they
kids
need to be.
No, but you've got to think, if that's the one that you see at the cinema and gives you the nostalgia bait, it's not nostalgia at that point, it's first time, but that's the one you will connect with. I get that. I kind of bucked that trend because they re-released the original trilogy before the Phantom Menace.
Yeah, I remember you bought the original trilogy on Blu-ray at the time, and it cost you a fortune.
I was a student. I spent £75 on a Blu-ray box set. Literally, like, disgusting. I did the same for Alien as well, and I did not have the money to be doing that. But I would say they have been religiously watched. Like, anyway, I was also going to say that Richard Lester directed Superman 2 and Superman 3, and he was always criticised for making it even more campy, and like he loved like visual gags and humour, which obviously overtaking 3 a hell of a lot. But there is a Richard Donner cut of 2, which is all the sequences he basically filmed. He refused to use any of, I think basically it's all the stuff he filmed only in his cut, which was released in like 2006.
Is it awful?
7. It basically has the same ending. He goes back in time again because he doesn't have anything else to use.
I don't remember number 2 at all.
So two is the one that I always used to think was really good because there's the action between him and Zod and everyone else.
Yeah, so yeah, there is a lot of action in it. I feel like I remember that.
Yeah, but the problem with it is it's just like really mixed. Like in terms of tone, it's like all over the shop. So you got the Richard Donner stuff, which is quite serious again, and then we've kind of got the Richard Lester stuff, which is like completely like, and it's a bit of a clash. I'd love to watch the Richard Donner cut, but then everyone just says it's quite clear it's an uncut film that's tried to be finished to make a complete film.
Like Alien 3.
Oh, don't.
Do you
But
know what's mad
similar
about Richard Donner is that he's not really spoken about much at all, and his filmography's really, really good.
Happy
Feet, which is a man that can.
Sorry.
No, I don't think he directed Happy Feet.
I thought he did. Get that back. Let me search it right now.
No, I don't think he directed Happy Feet, but he did direct obviously The Goonies, which is a classic. I'm pretty sure he didn't direct Happy Feet.
I'm doing it.
Hold on. You do it. Anyway, he directed the Lethal Weapon films. He directed. Did he produce Happy Feet? No, I think you're wrong.
Don't know.
Sorry about that. Sorry, listeners. John's got no idea.
Goonies, Lethal Weapon. Yes.
Well, you better find out who did Happy Feet now. I want to say it's Francis Ford. No. Am I mental? Please tell me who directed Happy Feet.
Finish that. Happy Feet director.
I'm not doing it. I'm not finishing it. Happy Feet director. Oh, this is great. Listen, anyway.
George Miller. Got confused. Sorry. That's because it's about Fury Road.
George Miller, right. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
so,
Richard Donner
did The Omen. He did all the Lethal... Well, Yeah, he did all the Lethal Weapon films. Scrooged,
4.
which is fantastic. Yeah, he's got like a pretty solid filmography.
Because Nolan loves the Superman movie, and like it heavily inspired him. It obviously heavily inspired especially the Spider-Man, Sam Raimi Spider-Man films.
So I wrote
Very
this
much
in my
so.
notes without doing any kind of research whatsoever, but you can really tell that Sam Raimi's taken a lot of inspiration off this. Just
tone wise, they're kind of like, it feels like silver screen era, silver age comics, doesn't it? In Spider-Man, the first one, it feels like the 60s, even though it's modern day.
It really does. Like even to the point of like the Superman. Well, Clark Kent races his dad, and his dad has a heart attack. I mean, I've never killed anyone by racing them, but pretty fast. I am pretty fast. I'm faster than I look. But yeah, he kills his dad. Like, I mean, does he kill his dad, John?
He doesn't.
So
no.
Does Clark Kent kill his own dad?
No, he doesn't.
By racing him.
Not really. He was going to die anyway. It was just.
But he's
bad
had the
timing.
whole like heartfelt, like arm over the shoulder kind of thing, and then it's like
It's not you only. Sorry, it's with great power comes great responsibility. But
it's
or in Man of Steel, it's the like, the world's not ready for you.
Yeah, it is all that. It's all that. So it is quite sad when that does happen, but that's when I was like, right, Sam Raimi has got a lot of.
And Spider-Man 2 is the same plot as Superman 2. It's the losing of powers. One's out of choice, one's not.
Right. Yeah. Well,
it's the same plot point. So Superman 2 is, I'm giving up my powers for love,
I
which
think
is also the Dark Knight. Dark Knight is, I want to give up my power, my being a superhero, so I can have Rachel. Like, they're all inspired by it. It's fine. Like, it's okay. Like.
It's
They're good
great,
films.
but by the way, can I just say it's great?
Yeah,
like it's great. The casting is perfect. Like I know you're not a big fan of the Gene Hackman character playing Lex. It's for me, it was very comic booky rather than super serious. And he's like, you're a Neanderthal, you're a nincompoop, you're nitwit,
It's
like all
that
this.
age of comics, isn't it? Because I
think so,
thinking
yeah.
80s comics, was that is probably a very fair reflection.
His motive
of
is that he
60s,
wants to
70s,
blow up
50s.
California. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just and so
Yeah.
I know that you probably think the tone is slightly off.
It does shift, doesn't it?
It does shift, yeah, it does shift. But at the same time, I think for what they did, £55 million budget, the film was absolutely gangbusters. It made like 300 million.
And we also need to talk about in the fact that like in Man of Steel, he was serious. It was a serious film throughout, and people hated that. So, and everyone didn't like the Brandon Routh one, which was based after he told everyone to ignore Superman 3 and 4 and said it's a sequel to Superman 2. But that was also quite po-faced, and people found that boring as
I didn't
dull,
mind
so.
Superman Returns, but I
I
also
don't
haven't
mind it,
seen
but
it
it's
in a
a
long
weird
time.
looking film. Like in terms of like cinematography, so that's got like a weird yellowy tinge to it throughout, like a looking through.
The one
soup
thing
kind
I will
of
say, so one thing we do need to we must tackle before we
John Williams score.
Well, before the John Williams score, because that is the
best
absolute.
thing about all of it.
Oh my god!
Christopher Reeve,
So let's
but
talk
yeah.
about this first, though. This was one of the first times we've seen flying on screen done properly. And so when this came out in '78, people seen this and they see, and one of the main reasons for it was it this is rear projected, was it?
Yes, but it's a special system with a mirror because they found a way of linking it. So when you have the camera would, I can't fully explain the system, but there was a special tool made essentially so it looked like the camera could move a certain way without Christopher Reeve moving to make it look like the backdrop. It basically to make it all aligned. So rather than have it a matte lines and put over, there was a rear projection, then a camera moving towards Chris to make it look like he was flying past.
Yeah. So it was making.
I'm not describing it well enough, but they were also able to do it with zooms and things like that to give better momentum. So it's very well done because when you take someone in daylight, so Star Wars is easier with black sky and nights because it hides matte lines relatively well. But if you had a person cut out,
What's a matte line?
Matte line is when you have two pieces of film, you would have an element which had shot against a blue screen, and then you would key it, but it might have like a line around it where the key's not perfect. So say if the subject was like a bottle, there might be a faint black line around it because when they've aligned it in the step printer, there's a faint black line around it. So and that's
why he's here. That's why he's paid the big bucks.
But if you're against a blue sky, it's like super telling. So the way to avoid it is to have rear projection and things like that, which is what people do.
Well, the reason why this looked so good as well wasn't just because of this new technique they used with the zoom lens. This was also because Christopher Reeve just happened to be so fluid on screen, and the way he moved and the way he... Basically just the way... He looks like you're vaping. The way he...
Sorry.
You're not vaping, are you?
No.
That'd be hilarious. I was like, would John vape? John doing any kind of drugs whatsoever? I don't think so.
Not.
Only cocaine. That was a joke. Sorry, that was a joke. So that John does not do anything like that. He's freaking out. It's his edit week as well, so that will definitely get edited out. I wouldn't do it if I was joking.
Just get cut.
Nah, no, leave it on. Leave it on. You don't do that. It was a joke. That's why it was a joke that you were doing a vape, because I was so freaked out that you would be doing anything like that. Because he's a clean-cut guy, except his red light behind him, and when he's DTF. So anyway, the way Christopher Reeve moved made it look like he was so fluid on screen.
The way he banked his body to make it look like he was part of that process and make you believe him. It made you believe a man could fly. As
banking that body, bro. Yeah, the way he banks that body. And so that was one thing I did want to mention. And the other thing was that the scene when Clark does race the car and he jumps across the train looks brilliant in 1978, but actually the way they filmed that was they filmed it in reverse essentially. So they pulled him back off the train backwards, and then just obviously sped it up normal time.
But look, it's of its time. I mean, you've got to, it's hard now because we're sport with modern day superhero films. We can see what it'd be like if two superhero people actually punched each other with infinite power.
I know.
Man of Steel is a fantastic representation of like the way they carry the weight and all those things, and that's what I love about that film. Yeah. But look,
can we talk about? I'm going to throw it out there, and I'm going to say, what, top 10 score of all time?
Yeah,
top 10 of all time.
John Williams' score was used. Theme for Superman was used for so many things after this. Like it was used for NFL teams to hype them up back in the day, and all that jazz. But it was an anthem. Like it's just shades of Star Wars melodies in there. But look, it's a fantastic score. You've got the main Superman march. You've got the love theme. You've got the weird electronic score for Krypton, which I'd forgotten about, which is very synthesizery 70s. But hey, it works.
For me, the first thing I wrote on my notes, because I always take notes when I'm doing this, because I'm not John can basically just remember everything, and I always have to take notes. But the one thing I noticed straight away, I was like, starts with the top 10 score of all time by John Williams, and it's the build, like dum, 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 and you know when it kicks in, right? Especially because it's been remastered now in 4K. It's so
DTS HD
uplifting. It's unbelievable. Like honestly,
yep.
Imagine writing a piece of music like that and it being overlooked by Taylor Swift. Like people love Taylor Swift more than they love that score, and that breaks my heart, because
I don't know, man. Film scores to other music is a different vibe. I mean,
wild.
There's incredible film scores, but I can see why people aren't.
The only other thing I would mention was that we do have a Bohemian Rhapsody kind of vibe with Marlon Brando at the beginning with the lights behind all three of them. Bohemian Rhapsody was filmed 3 years before this, so yeah, I did want to mention that as well. But anyway, let's. We both love Superman 1978. John's got a few more issues with it than I have. I just get dead excited about seeing about seeing Christopher Reeve in the suit. He refused to wear a muscle suit as well.
Yeah, the thing for me is Christopher Reeve is brilliant. The score is brilliant. I'm not a massive fan of the hazy look over the city. It's not a pleasant picture for me to look at with a lot of things, because I remember they said when the 4K came out, everyone was like, oh, it's not a very good 4K, and they're like, no, this is the way it was shot and it was intended to. So it's a choice. It's not a choice I wasn't into, but it's a choice.
So I wasn't that impressed with the Batman Begins 4K.
I think, isn't that just the case of though that you'd always seen that film on a HD transfer, so you were never going to be that blown away? Like how much difference is there going to be?
I don't know. It was like it felt so. I will always.
What about the high dynamic range? Did it not do much for you?
There's not really that many colours, is it?
That's what it's
quite
for.
Dark, isn't it?
Well, that's what I mean.
Yes.
Well, no, but then it should have it. That should have high dynamic range, because there'll be bright bits and really dark bits.
There isn't really. It's a pretty moody piece. Anyway, we've got a couple of little Superman questions, haven't we?
It was a very good Batman transfer, by the way, on Blu-ray, which is probably why you're not as impressed, because sometimes, believe it or not, guys, you can get decent transfers of films. It does exist, and then when the 4K comes out, it's not such a step up as you may have thought. So,
there you go then. So we have been asked to do. We've been asked to do a tier list ranking of all the Superman and the Batman. So what we'll do on that is we'll do a little. What we'll do is we'll do a little bonus episode at some point when I'm back, and we'll basically have that that classic tier list. We'll have it behind us, and we'll be like, cool. So is it Martin Ruth? Is that his name? Brandon Ruth. Right, Brandon Ruth is like a B or whatever, like, and then we'll have like,
right,
yeah, and that's what we'll do. And you put him into SM, and yeah, and that's so we'll do that on a separate episode, because I think that will take a little while, and it'll be quite fun actually. And what we'll do is we'll do the Spider-Mans, we'll do the Batmans, we'll do the Supermans, and we'll do a few of the other mans. Like we'll see
Andrew Garfield for days. Jokes.
Yes. Anyway,
Bring him in the next Venom film, Sony. Stop wimping out. Anyway, yeah, go on.
Yeah, Christopher Reeve, 6'4", beast. I just wanted to throw that last little one in there. He was 6'4" in real life as well. So we've only really got one question left, and that would be, what comic book would you want to see made into a movie or a show? And they're coming thick and fast now, so we better hurry up, really, wouldn't we?
I believe... I talked about it at the start of the pod. I believe it or not, I do want to see what Marvel do with X-Men. I feel like we had...
You want to see what Marvel do with X-Men?
Yeah, because let me be honest, like when the X-Men films came out with Fox, it was kind of like they weren't sure how to do the superhero film, so they always had to have like black leather, downgraded versions of the suits be more low-key to make it appeal. I want to see kind of what we were joking about with Deadpool, but that kind of like Logan in yellow, Cyclops in blue with yellow.
Yeah.
Go for it.
That'd be pretty cool.
It's a superhero film. Stop worrying about it. Like, we accept it looks mad.
Yeah.
Excuse me. It's fine. Like, it's fine. Just stop flapping about it and just let them do it. But even if you don't do that, I would accept again the Ultimate X-Men look. And I'd kind of like that story. But they kind of done that. That's kind of what that X-Men series was. But yeah. I am intrigued to see how will they set it up with Xavier and everything. I don't know. I really like X-Men. I want to see a good version of it. And the truth is, we haven't had a good X-Men film for a long time. Logan's a good film, but it's not really an X-Men film, is it? It's a Wolverine film.
It's not at all, is it? Like, that's the problem, isn't it?
The last good X-Men film was X-Men 3, The Last Stand, and that's not a particularly good X-Men film. I like First Class, but what I mean is, of the team as a whole, when they're the way we know them in the first film. So when you know it's Jean Grey, Rogue, Cyclops and Wolverine. But I really want to see it. I want to see what they can do with it. And I feel like maybe another way for Marvel is to reboot by just starting again. And the mutants exist in that world. And go from there. I don't know. Like maybe that's the thing.
Do you know what I think would be like relatively quite decent? Would be the Avengers versus X-Men. Which was a really long run that they did quite a few years ago.
And it was about the Mutant Registration Acts and the Superhero Registration Acts. But they've kind of done Civil War, which touched on a lot of the cornerstones of that.
Well, they did, but it's also like the X-Men versus Avengers was very long... it was quite a long...
Saga,
yeah. For me, I would actually be delving completely away from Marvel and DC mostly. What I want to see from Marvel would be...
I've got one more actually.
Immortal Hulk is one of the newer books from Marvel, which is being classed as an all-timer, like one of the greatest ones ever. So I would like to see Immortal Hulk be adapted. I would also like to see Thor. So Thor: Love and Thunder. Obviously, everyone knows I'm completely egreged by what they did with that, because the Mighty Thor by Jason Aaron is, for me, the greatest Thor run that's ever existed. And
I've read that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Have you actually? The God Butcher. Mm-hmm. They've completely...
I read it for the film.
Yeah.
To get excited for it.
They've just done a really shite... If I'm being honest, a shite job, like, and I hate it so much.
But I didn't hate Christian Bale's adaptation of it. As in, his character interpretation was fine. It's just the crap going on around him.
The problem with that needed to be a very serious book, because the implications are very serious. It's just great. Like, it's so good.
It was treated as an offhand, it didn't matter for one of the most serious comics, or graphic novels, whatever storylines, and it just, I think that's where a lot of people jumped off. To be honest, I really do. I feel like it upset a lot of people, and it also looks bad.
Do you know what's funny? I think that's where I jumped off.
Yeah, I feel like it's even because we had No Way Home, which we've talked about before, not being the best film, but because it had enough of like a nostalgia to it that you went with it.
Yeah.
But then Thor, in my head, was after that, and I just remember being like, and also Doctor Strange 2. Like, I quite liked Doctor Strange 2. It had some different things to it.
Yeah, I didn't watch
Sam
that one.
Raimiism to it. You know, Sam Raimi got to actually do some things he does.
Yeah.
But it just, anyway, we are where we are.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and so the only other ones that
That
I
was
would...
the graphic novel. Sorry,
You are?
go on, you go. Then I've got one after you. But
Okay,
it's
so
quite niche.
the only ones I would probably mention that I'd maybe like to see would be Irredeemable, which is quite a long-running series, which is fantastic. Saga would be great. They're currently doing Invincible, which Invincible's like really good, but I would like to maybe see that as a live action. They did a Spawn film. I know they've done a pretty good anime, which I haven't seen.
Isn't the Spawn film like a 90s film?
Yeah, but
No.
well, I watched it when I was young, like a kid, and I really liked it. So I think it's probably not very good.
I watched a 20-minute interview with the guy who created Spawn about how he started at Marvel and then how he made the character Spawn. And he liked the idea of it was someone coming back for love, not revenge. And
Yeah.
so it was really interesting. But,
No, Spawn's really
forgotten
good.
his name, which isn't ideal.
I would like to see. Is it Birthright? I Kill Giants, anyway. So I Kill Giants. Mostly, like, there's a lot of Image comics that haven't been done yet, which would be great.
So,
Southern Bastards as well, which is fantastic. So
Trying to get the
there's
name
loads really. Gideon's Fall, it's a horror one, which would be really good as a TV show. I have like I went for a stage of like basically Image were like doing the most interesting things for a very long time. And so I was kind of just like buying like most
Here we
Image
go.
comics.
This
Yeah.
is now DC property, but it wasn't when.
So what-
I've lent this to you, so I'm hoping you read it.
The Mighty.
It's The Mighty, which is about Alpha One, which is effectively the idea of. It's another kind of idea, a Superman existing.
Yeah.
But it's this Superman is kept in touch with a police force, and there's someone who has to liaise with him to set his roles and what to do.
Yeah.
And then there's a big twist. I'm going to be honest. If you want to skip spoilers,
No,
30
don't say the
seconds,
twist. Don't tell me the twist.
but it's good. It's really good, and it's only like 2 issues for one of them, and then 2
Yeah.
issues for another one. Jamie, I've lent them to you. Have you read them?
I've read the first one, I think. Yeah.
Very good.
The only other one I would
good
read.
twist, though, isn't it?
Yeah. The only other one I would mention, which would be a really good police procedural, would be one called Nailbiter. Who wrote Nailbiter? But they've read a few of those. They are really, really good. And so, by the way, all these are really good recommendations for you. If you, Joshua Williamson, who was, by the way, hot shit at that moment in time, and probably still is, but he was doing all. So he's now. Joshua Williamson at the time was at Image, but he's now at DC doing Batman and Robin, Green Arrow. Yeah, but he's such a fantastic writer. So yeah, Joshua Williamson has done some really good stuff. There's some fantastic ones out there. So, but Nailbiter you can pick up for £7.40 on World of Books.
To be fair, a lot of these now as well, if you're on Amazon anyway, you've got a Kindle or what have you, as in the iPad-y ones or whatever, you can get a lot of these digitally for pretty cheap. And a lot of on Amazon, there's a lot you can get for like the first issue free and then go through. So yeah.
Well, look.
Anyway,
firstly, I did want to just say thank you to John, because John is editing this episode and he's editing the next episode because I'm on holiday. So I'm gonna owe him. He reckons I owe him more than 2, but I think he's bullshitting. Because
I've got a list, mate. I tally them.
Yeah. Did you actually?
No, I don't really.
Because if you don't, then
I'm checking it twice, mate.
All right, Santa. Because if you were tallying them, all that would suggest is that you've got plenty of time to be doing it. So, No. When remember when John had a kid and I was just solo rolling,
What do
writing
you mean
songs?
when I had a kid? I still
I was
have
like
one.
rapping to Stan and shit. Like, so yeah, let's forget that. So the next episode that's coming out that you're going to hear will be
2024.
will be our favourite film so far of 2024 with John, obviously, and Jane Crowther, editor-in-chief of Hollywood Authentic. The episode after that we've also planned in, we haven't recorded it yet, but when I get back from holiday, John's going to have shepherd's pie. I hope that shepherd's pie in my pants. What's that from? What show?
I don't know.
The Simpsons. So we're going to be doing, it's pretty just past the 50th anniversary of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I've got it on 4K, so we're going to do Texas Chainsaw Massacre 50th anniversary. We're pairing it, it's a 70s horror episode, we're pairing it with something else. I'm going to be a bit of a dick. Jane chose the next film at the end of the next episode, so if you want to know what it is, you just have to listen to the next episode.
I thought you were about to say, I'm being a bit of a dick, so I've ignored the recommendation.
Oh no, I'd never do that to a guest. To someone like Jane? No.
I was like, that is a bold choice.
Listen, we are very
Look
lucky.
forward to not getting return on the podcast for that one.
We are very lucky that Jane likes us and comes on the pod. So yeah, we're going to be doing that, and then after that, we've got nothing planned yet. But and we've hopefully got big plans for episode 100. But John, unless there's anything else from you, I'm ready to pack. I've not packed my bag yet,
mate. We are gone. Jamie's got a pack. He's leaving at 3 a.m.
Yeah,
we're off.
Great song by Busted. Where can they find you, John?
Sorry, it's at jcv.video on Instagram, and if you want to listen to that banger 3 a.m, which is probably Busted's best song, I would put myself on the line with that one. Just search for it on Spotify or Apple Music and have a great 4 minutes of your life.
After you've searched for Movies in a Podshell and
only left a 5-star review, because we only accept 5-star reviews, and after you've been on the YouTube and searched Movies in a Podshell as all one word,
Dad,
Jamie, where can they find you?
They can find me on the beach in Menorca, Cala Galdana. Come hit me up, I'll be.
Imagine if someone does now.
I mean, if they did,
creepy.
What did you keep watching, by the way? Can I just?
Sorry, I'm not gonna lie. It is the Euros, and I have the Portugal Czech Republic game on in the background. So I've managed to see
score?
two. It's 2-1, and I've only seen 2 of the goals. So I've missed the Portugal winner, which is upsetting. I'm turning now, and they're not showing it yet.
Yeah. You're taking the absolute piss out of my life.
Eagle-eyed viewers will see I have a Formula 1 poster here in the background of Monaco, and in the reflection
you can't see it because it's, I think they won't. Well, they will be able to see it on the YouTube, but they won't be able to see it.
That's on the YouTube, but not on the crappy link Jamie and I are on now. It's pixelated, but you can see the game. So, yeah,
bro. So
anyway,
they'll find me at Movies in a Podshell on Instagram. You'll find us on Spotify, iTunes, and pretty much wherever you get your podcasts. Buy a t-shirt. It really, really helps us out, like genuinely. And
yes.
Like it's with so many episodes in now. You've got another one to listen to after this.
See you later, guys.
See ya.